Confirmation of the agenda that the Council of Township of North York accept the agenda for the March 18th, 2019 council meeting as amended to include agenda items 5.3.7, an invoice from the Ombudsman, as well as an update under agenda item 7.1.1 from Lavis Contracting. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin Faulkner and Paul Hefner second.
Question.
Is that?
Okay, well, it's been moved, so.
Yep.
I feel that the consent agenda, I understand why. I think it covers too much. I think if it just went to the minutes and stopped there, because there's reports that I have questions for and correspondence.
Yeah.
Like I want to talk about some things. And it really doesn't, it goes through so fast. I know other meetings I've been missed out because it went so quickly. So it just doesn't give the opportunity. And I have questions, so.
And I'm going to change that tonight so you can have those questions.
Okay.
I'm going to ask for questions first. So I do totally understand that. Yeah.
All right.
So just confirmation. All in favor? Passes. Disclosure of pecuniary interests. None noted. Public comments. This section is a new and recently added section to the council agenda. The purpose is to provide members of the public with an opportunity to share their views, options, and/or provide additional information regarding a matter that's on the council agenda. There's a time limit of 2 minutes per person, and it is my discretion as how many people are allowed to speak. We do ask that each speaker share a different view, option, or comment than the previous speakers. I want to clarify that this is not a question and answer period. Negative or derogatory comments towards individual members of council and/or individual members of staffs are not acceptable. You will be asked to stop immediately. Prior to speaking, we ask that you provide your name, address, and the agenda item you wish to comment on. From the gallery, is there anyone that would like to speak on anything on the agenda tonight? Mr. Alexander?
Go over there and share.
Come over here, please.
My name is Rennie Alexander. I'm on the House and Dam and Pond Committee. I wanted to just draw your attention to item number 7.8.2, House and Bridge Terms of Reference. I've been in Wingham for probably over 40 years, and I've never heard of the House and Bridge. I've heard of the House and Dam, and a fellow by the name of John Pattison, he wrote up a beautiful history of the dam starting in 1862, and he referred to the House and Dam continuously, but never the House and Bridge. And I think possibly one of the reasons for that is that in 1921, the dam was washed out. The town rebuilt the dam in its entirety. So it actually should have been called the Town of Wingham Dam, the Town of Wingham Bridge, or whatever. It's really, I guess it's really a moot point, but I think that if some people from the general public are going to read this and talking about the House and Bridge terms of reference, they're going to wonder why we have changed what the direction that we were hoping to go. And so our committee, as you know, just a few weeks ago, we had said that the House and Dam and Pond Committee is interested in repairing, refurbishing, whatever, the dam. Just a few years ago, there was a meeting here, and some of you might have been available. There were probably a total of 150 people. We had 2 different meetings on the same night, and overwhelmingly, the people had said they wanted to see the dam repaired. The bridge, not so much. Actually, very, very little. The people wanted to see the dam and the pond, and I think that's what our committee was hoping to, the direction that we were hoping to go. I might not even be on that committee, I don't know. But if I am, I would certainly like to look at the house and dam. I just think it's a moot point, but I don't think there is a house and bridge. Now, we can have the dam without the bridge, but you can't have the bridge without the dam. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Would anybody else like to speak to any item on the agenda? Seeing none, we shall move on. Number 5, consent agenda. Before I call the vote for the consent agenda, there's a lot in the items tonight. So as pointed out earlier, we'd like to take a few minutes and talk to them. So I'm going to open the floor up for, well, just lost again. I'm going to open the floor up on the consent agenda from items 5.1 to 5.3.9 and items 5.1 to 5.16. Okay. Would anybody like to pull some things out and talk about? Go ahead, Anita.
Well, I have a general comment about reports. I would like to thank all the staff of North Huron and encourage residents of North Huron to read through the reports because it gives them a great opportunity to learn about the daily business in our township and where our dollars are spent and used. I think that it's awesome. A really good job in reporting what's going on. And we're just doing the reports here.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's 5.1 all the way down to 5.39. So the correspondence to.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you want to speak to that. Go ahead, Chris.
I have 3 items, but I'll give to the council to interject. 5.2.4. Again, Belgrave, the residents of Belgrave, they have no idea about their water quality. I know it's going to be brought up again further down. Yeah, 6.2, it'll be brought up again, so maybe we can go into more detail there. It was mentioned in the testing, I think last month, but then after I mentioned it, and then it's not on again, so it should be permanent. Would anyone else have a comment?
Oh, you can continue on. It's okay.
Sean?
Sorry, Sean, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, Reeve, if I may, the Belgrave annual and summary report was not on the agenda tonight by design, simply because we've got John Graham from Veolia here tonight who will present our annual and summary report. It hasn't been reported to Morris Turnberry yet, so it's appropriate that as the owner, they hear the report first. As soon as that's been completed, it will definitely be brought forward.
Thank you, Sean. 5.3.2, it was some correspondence. This originally went to Huron County Council, and it's about the natural heritage plan that our county has. And it's just a point. I hope that you're all able to read it, because then you'll realize the situation that it puts farmers, agriculture in. It's very serious. It's dangerous. It costs a lot of money. Economically, it's not a good thing. And so when you hear me talk about it in the future, you'll know where I'm coming from. And then, okay. There was one 5.3.8. I'm not sure if it's coming up later or not, but
No, you can speak to it now.
okay, it was just the balance owing of over $12,000 for legal costs. And I'm just wondering, are we obliged to always pay for it? Or if we are in the winning, call it just the winning side, should the cost be sent to the other side?
Anybody else while we're on that subject? I'm going to speak to that subject. 5.3.6, 5.3.7, and 5.3.8. For the public's information, we have an omnibus where anybody can go and they can complain about council. We have one certain person that's, I believe it's about 12 complaints they put in. Out of the 12 complaints they put in, 2 were looked at by the ombudsman. It costs us $13,000, your tax money. Your council, your staff was completely vindicated. The other 10, I believe, items, there was nothing worth the ombudsman even looking at it. If he would have, the bill would have been about $120,000 to your tax dollars. Because, and every individual has the right to go to the ombudsman, don't get me wrong. If you think we're doing something wrong, that's what they're for. I would appreciate if you'd come to me first and have a conversation with me or my staff or any of my counselors before you spend that kind of tax dollars. But we could have been looking at a bill for $120,000. I believe we may have a bill from another lawyer coming in as part of this. I believe the same individual is taking us to a superior court at the same time, which we don't have that bill in. So I'm kind of in agreement with Mr. Palmer that something like this, our council needs to have a very serious look at and see if we can get retribution from the person that would commit these frivolous acts thinking that they were free, I guess, or trying to make a statement that I'm not sure what he's trying to say, but he could have come before a council and had the same conversation. So I am going to throw it out there with you, Chris, that I think that if the township should be seriously thinking about trying to recoup some of that money. We didn't do anything wrong. It was proven. If he'd have sent one into the ombudsman, it would have cost you $2,000 and you'd have got the same answer as 12. I'm not sure how to proceed with that. If there's any other counselors have an idea how to proceed with that, but I do not see spending 4 years with everybody that thinks they have a problem running off to the ombudsman and spending thousands and thousands of dollars because it could break this town. And we have better places to spend our money than in court. So I think before this thing gets out of hand, I know from upper tier governments, they thought it was a great idea, but I don't think they realized the repercussion of it. So I'd like to hear from other counselors too, if they want to talk about this. And I'm just wondering if we shouldn't throw this back to our staff to maybe put something together to have a conversation about what we're going to do in these incidents where our tax dollars are spent frivolously. Trevor?
So I just have a couple of points. One, I think we want to make sure that the council and the staff of North Huron don't have any issue with the municipality, with ratepayers complaining or having issue with what the municipality has done. That there is a complaint process to allow ratepayers to provide feedback to the township via complaint process to make sure that we are heard or they're heard to understand what issues they believe are wrong or right, whatever the case may be. So the part for us is that it's if a ratepayer doesn't agree with the decision of their complaint, they have the opportunity to go directly to Aird & Barrels. Aird & Barrels is our ombudsman liaison, basically. But if they directly go to them, we have no, we can't stop them. We can't stop them from going directly to them. So the conversation is that we as well, not we, me as an individual counselor would expect somebody who has an issue with the municipality to go through the proper channels within the municipality. And if you don't agree with the decision of council or the decision of staff based on the information that's been presented, you have the opportunity. But I think it has to be well documented that if these types of instances become an issue with the Aird & Barrels and the council, that council is going to look at them on a case-by-case basis to determine whether retribution needs to be looked at from a taxpayer perspective. Because I don't think it's fair to the taxpayers of North Huron to be fitting a bill for issues that you have a grudge or an issue with some particular incident that you have with the municipality. Believe me, if we're wrong, I want to know that we're wrong. As a counselor, I want to know that we have a letter that states that we're wrong and here's how we're going to fix it. Because that's open government. That's transparent government. That's what I want. But I don't want us to have the open-ended bucket of money that says, here, go to them and everything's going to be happy and we're just going to keep spending money and everybody's going to be satisfied. Because at the end of the day, after this $12,000 is spent, we haven't changed anything. We haven't done anything. We haven't done anything different than we did before we spent $12,000. So it's a conversation about how we do that, but I want us to make sure that council and staff understand that I don't want to be looked upon as the guy that's going against the little guy. I just want to make sure that everybody's happy that if we're going to go after retribution because of frivolous complaints, that we have an understanding and what is considered a frivolous complaint and how that's determined. I think that needs to be clear on how we do that to make sure that, one, the complainant understands this is not an open season for anything, and that we understand that, we're doing this on a case-by-case basis, and it's not just every time we get a complaint and we think it's right, we're going to ask them to pay the bill. I think it's got to be a case-by-case basis.
I agree with Trevor, but when you shoot off 12, I think it is 12 now, 12 complaints about staff and counselors and the REEV, I think somewhere in there should have been a conversation with your council, your counselor, your staff, or your REEV, just knowing the financial impact it's going to have on our community. Anybody else want to speak to that? I'm going to suggest that we take Mr. Sipes' advice and we'll look at it on a one-to-one basis and decide as we move along. We'll let that go. Is there anything else anybody else would like to bring up? Go ahead, Anita.
I would like to talk about Safe Places for Youth. That is a new program that's getting on, and I would like to know if North Huron has policy in place, if and how this organization is qualified to give a certification. And I was wondering if it's only for children or if it's also talking about other vulnerable residents like people with physical and invisible minorities and disabilities, fraud, seniors.
Sorry, go ahead.
If
Yeah.
that is, if there is something like that for them too, or is it just for the children? I do appreciate that they look after the children.
I appreciate that need, and I agree with you. And I think we're going to ask them to come and speak to council because this is a very important subject and something we should expand on for our society. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think I might even know
Thank you.
somebody that's involved in that one coming to see us.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Riva, I just wanted to mention to Councillor Van Henderson that I have hopefully coming in June or July more information as it relates to council possibly getting a report, ask the staff to prepare a report as it relates to youth committees within the municipality. So anything to do with youth certification or youth-friendly municipalities,
Yeah.
or those types of things. My goal was to get a better, a better vocal point with the youth in North Huron to give them a better idea of an understanding of how they can communicate with council directly and staff to better help influence decisions that will help and support them and allow that to happen. So, I'm hoping that part of that youth certification program, we can kind of mingle it together. It may not be the same things, but I'm thinking hopefully we can talk about all youth initiatives at the same time, and therefore it kind of kill two birds with one stone, because I think, youth have an opportunity to influence the future in our municipality, and I don't know if they always have a know and a know-how of how to do that. So, I think from my perspective, that's the hope that I brought back from AMO or Roma. So I'm hoping that when my work schedule gets lower, I will bring back to council hopefully a request to get a council report together on youth initiatives within the municipality.
Sounds good.
Anything anybody else wants to pull out? Then I'm gonna pull one more out. I'm gonna pull out the Township of Howick and Huron County Administration Building. At the county level, just so everybody understands, at the county level, they've decided that they're going to build a new facility for the county. And it's been in Goderich for ever since Huron County's been around. Obviously, the settlers came in through the port there, and it was a major port. Things have changed in 150 years. So I put it out there that I thought for building a new one, we should maybe be more central, and a few of the others, South Huron Mayor, Mr. Finch, agreed with that quite a conversation. I put it out there that in my world, Blythe is the middle of Huron County. And I asked at the last economic development meeting that I get support from the BIAs, both William and Blythe, and the Economic Development Committee, that we approach the county and suggest to them that that would be a good location for the center of Huron County. So this is a long-term project. It's on the very beginning. It might be 3 years before they get to that stage, but I think we should start banging our drum now and asking for support from our neighbors. And as you can see, already we have Howick is chipping in there, and they think it's a good idea. Central Huron thinks that. I believe our letter is going to them this week, or it's already gone to them. So there's 3 of us. I believe Morris Turnberry is in agreement, so that's 4 of us. So we're moving right along. So just to let everyone know that that's on the go, and I'm looking quite forward to that. Is that everything everybody wanted to bring out? Okay, then I'm going to ask that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopt consent items 5.1.1 to 5.1.6, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receive consent items 5.2.1 and 5.3.9 for information. Do I have a mover? Trevor Sipes, second by Anita and Hitterman. All in favor? Carries. So we're going to go now to public meetings and hearings and delegations. Jan McKay Weiser, Recruitment Officer for Wingham Physician Recruitment Committee. Are you ready, kiddo?
I'm ready.
All right,
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yep. Yep. That's fine. Okay. Nope, I'm fine. So my name is Jan McKay-Weiser. I am the recruitment officer at the Wingham and District Hospital. Thanks for having me here tonight. I've brought a couple of committee members with me. Verna Stuffler is our chair. She's here with me. I'm sure most of you know Verna. And Mike McDonough is also on our committee. He is our South Bruce Council representative. So he's here in support as well. It's been a little while since we have been at your council, and I know you have a lot of new faces. So it was a good time for us to come and let you know what our committee's been up to and a little bit about what we do. So a little bit about us. We are a community organization represented by hospital administration, municipal representation, as well as community members. We have Sharon Zinn in Morris Turnberry, Mike McDonough from South Bruce, Lillian Abbott from Huron Kinloss, Wayne Forster from ACW, and we're happy to have Anita from North Huron with us. Verna, a number of community members, Brenda Dial, Trudy Thompson, Dorothy Kelly, a former counselor from Morris Turnberry, has decided to stay on with us. Of course, our hospital CEO and representation from our family health team, Mary Atkinson, as well as foundation members, and we are currently looking for a treasurer for our group. So I thought I'd start off with a little bit about what our current physician situation is in Wingham. In 2018, we welcomed 3 new physicians, which was amazing. We do have an upcoming retirement in 2019. Right now, we have a total of 9 physicians in our family health team. Those 9 doctors currently care for about 12,000 patients. 9,000 of them are rostered patients, and there's another 3,000 that are Amish and Mennonite, which do not roster. However, it's important to know that of our 9 physicians, they are currently caring for approximately 12,000 patients. We have 3 clinics, one right here in Wingham, as well as one in Teeswater and Lucknow. Some people don't realize that we do have quite a number of visiting specialists too that come to Wingham, and I've listed a few there for you. Of note, addition of these 3 new physicians has maintained access to those 12,000 patients. So we had a retirement in Lucknow and a retirement in Teeswater. The 3 new physicians that we added just maintained the 12,000 patients that we had. So we haven't actually been able to add to residents who don't have a physician, that we haven't been able to still facilitate the addition of space to our patient roster. Right now, we're recruiting for 1 new doctor. We know that we have probably room for at least 2 more doctors to serve patients without a physician, or patients who live here and have a physician that's out of our area. If someone moved here from Kitchener-Waterloo, they probably had to keep their physician in Kitchener because we don't have access here. We know we have quite a lot. So that's 3 in total. It's important to note with these 3 new doctors that our incentive reserves have been depleted. So just a little bit about our target market, who it is we are looking for. Family medicine practice physicians is at the very top of our list. So those are docs that will join our family health team, ideally want to work in clinic, look after inpatients, work in emerge, perhaps long-term care, and other services that the hospital provides. We also need to recruit physicians to help out in our emergency department. So the 9 physicians that I referred to, 5 of those work in emerge. So that leaves a little bit of a gap there. We rely on locums to fill our emerge slots. So that's also part of who it is we're looking for. Back to the visiting specialists. As I mentioned before, there are about 14 different specialists that come on a regular basis to Wingham. It's important to note that those specialists play a large part in recruiting family medicine docs. So if our family doctors have access to specialists, it makes practicing here more attractive. For example, we've recently welcomed Dr. Alex Peel. Some of you may know her. She's a relatively local girl, and she is a geriatrician. Just to put a geriatrician into perspective, there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 across Canada. So it's a specialty that's very difficult to find. Having a geriatrician available to us in Wingham is very attractive to family doctors. So in the recruitment of those 3 new physicians, having a geriatrician here was a very important piece to the complement of service that they can provide. Someone else that we are looking for is medical learners. We know that learners often return to communities where that they have trained. Also, everyone seems to forget, our target market is actually the physicians we already have, our current doctors. So retention is very important. We don't want anyone to leave. So some of the challenges that we have faced, quite honestly, last year in 2018, we were in crisis. We had a medical leave and retirement in Lucknow, and that left about 2,000 patients without access to a physician. So we had a short-term and long-term coverage urgent need. Thankfully, we were able to cover that with 2 new grads that came along and took over that practice. While that was going on, we also had an upcoming retirement with Dr. Gear in December, so it was quite a tumultuous time. Another one of the challenges that we faced, and I'm sure you hear this quite often, is housing. One of our recruits, Dr. Henderson, was coming to us from the East Coast. He has 4 young children. He's a family of 6. Just to complicate things, he is a new grad and technically had never worked. So it was very difficult for him to get a mortgage because he doesn't have any established income. Canadian mortgage lending rules are difficult. You have to have 20% down now. So looking for rental space and eventually someplace to live for a family of 6 was extremely difficult, and we almost lost a recruit over that. I made a presentation actually to your economic development group back in June, I think. So I know that housing is a difficult issue everywhere, but that's a perfect example of kind of the things that we run into. One of the other challenges that seems to be ongoing is spousal opportunities. In the past, we have been runner-up on 5 recruits, and spousal opportunities has played a role in us, a partial role in not getting those doctors to come here. Happy wife, happy life is a real thing, and we recognized that we needed to do something about spousal opportunities. So on the flip side of our challenges are successes. So as I mentioned, we had an exceptional year last year, recruiting 3 new docs. So we were able to maintain access to healthcare for those patients of the retiring physicians. We were able to continue service for other services such as long-term care, oncology, and eMERGE that those retiring physicians left a gap. We also added to our eMERGE coverage. Those 3 docs are all working in eMERGE. Not all docs choose to, so we were lucky enough to find 3 that have actually added to our eMERGE coverage. And our eMERGE coverage today is probably the best it has been in 10 years. We still do require a pool of locum doctors to help us out there, but it certainly is much better. Our physician group is much more balanced. With 2 new grads, we've got a great complement of new young faces along with some experienced physicians. On top of that, the addition of these 3 docs, all of them are interested in teaching. So when I talked about attracting learners, it's really we're at the mercy of the docs to take those learners on and teach them. These 3 docs are all preceptors associated with Western. So that is also good news. We have always had good partnerships with our municipalities that support our recruitment efforts, but I wanted to make special note here, ACW and here in Kinloss and Lucknow have really stepped forward. That medical office in Lucknow was in bad need of renovations, and those 2 municipalities have really stepped up. And again, that was a sticking point that made that recruitment take place, having a newly renovated office. Spousal opportunities. While I said it was a challenge, what we did was we had a look at all the different career opportunities that are there. Excuse me. We never know for sure what kind of career a spouse may bring to the table. So we sat down and put together a subcommittee to identify potential employment partnerships. And North Huron has been extremely supportive in that. We made a list of all different kinds of occupations and then went through locally and who do we know in the area that does accounting, who's construction, who's hairdressing, who's everything that we could think of, and reached out to those people ahead of time so that if we had a potential recruit, we could already have an established connection. And those businesses or people may not have had a business opportunity, but at least we were facilitating a connection to the spouse. With one of the new recruits, that was the second question he asked me. Do you help with spousal opportunities? So having something already in place really was to our benefit. So this is the exciting slide, the numbers. So municipal contributions to recruitment are based on hospital usage. And before I get too far into this, these numbers are based on 2015 data, hospital usage for these municipalities. We know that it's old and we need to look at it. Historically, it hasn't changed very much. What we're proposing here to our recruitment committee is to have a closer look at the family health team patients. So I talked about the 12,000 patients. We think that it would be a more true, accurate number to understand where those patients come from, what municipalities those patients are coming from, along with hospital usage data. So we're busy collecting that right now. It sounds simple, but there's some patient privacy issues that come along with collecting that data. And to complicate things, for example, if your address is, I'm just choosing something here, R2 Wingham, you might live in North Huron, but you might live in Morris Turnberry. So without identifying patients, we're kind of struggling a little bit with segregating that data. We'll get to it, but I think in future when we look at the formula, that is a more true representation of where patients are coming from. So look for that in the future, and I'm sure Anita will keep you posted. Right now, North Huron is contributing 33,000 and change to our budget. We don't see any changes to that initially. We'll have to look at our new funding formula down the road. As I mentioned before, our incentive reserves have been depleted with the recruitment of those 3 new physicians. We must ensure access to incentives for future recruits. What we're doing is we're asking councils if they can commit to hold incentive reserves in your pocket if and when a new physician is recruited. I've talked to Donna about this last week. I understand that you're in the budget process right now and that portion for North Huron, I think it's important to note that recruitment of a physician can take many, many, many months and sometimes years. I don't anticipate this request this year. However, that being said, we need to get our reserves back to where they need to be. Just to kind of have an idea of the landscape of recruitment, Kincardin's offering incentives somewhere around $100,000. We know Walkerton is somewhere around 60. Right now, today in Raynham, a new doctor would get $25,000. So it's relatively modest and we're having success. So I feel like it's not a huge number in the landscape of recruitment. That is all I have. Do you have questions?
Well, thank you very much, Jan. Is there any questions for Jan? Seeing none. Thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you.
I just might make one quick suggestion. As you know, our budget's already done this year.
Yep.
So as you know, when I was recruiting, doing that for the hospital, I made sure I got to everybody before they had it. Just for next year.
For next year. Thanks.
Thank you, Jan. Next is Viola, annual summary report.
Good evening, Reeve, how are you? I will see if I can work this or I don't know if I can. Can I have a little bit of assistance, please?
Is it already on there?
Yeah, it's on there at the bottom. I just need to get to the other screen. Yeah, I know. That one. Thank you. Sure. And then the arrows, right? And these arrows move up and down for these. Those, okay. I'm going to put that away from me. Good evening. Thank you for having me here. Pleasure to meet you. I am going to go over the annual reports, annual summaries. This is from Veolia Water. My name is John Graham. I'm project manager for those who haven't met me before. This is the Township of North Huron, and it's our wastewater operations maintenance summary. And it will give information about 2018, not 2017. So I have some information to go over on the slides first of standard of care. So as some of you are new council members and Reeve, there is quite a bit of information on the Safe Drinking Water Act. Under Section 19 of the Safe Drinking Water Act, the owners of a drinking water system shall exercise a level of care, diligence, and skill in respect of a municipal drinking water system that a reasonably prudent person would be expected to exercise in similar situation, act honestly, competently, and with integrity, with a view to ensuring the protection of safety of the users of the municipal drinking water systems. Council members can learn more about their role and responsibilities in ensuring safe drinking water by reading Taking Care of Your Drinking Water, a guide for municipal councilors. This is put together by the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. So usually a course is available and I've seen them come into council. So on that, just remember that you've hired Veolia to ensure that you remain diligent and everything's looked after. So this is for councilors specifically. And I would like to add that at any time on a tour, singly reach out to us and we can take you through any one of the plants or all of them. So just like to offer that out there. There's a couple more things that are important in the drinking water thing. Required by Regulation 17003, which is part of the Safe Drinking Water Act. An annual report is due to council by the end of February, which it was, and the annual summaries are due by the end of March. So part of this presentation is that, and once the annual report and summaries are put together, element 3 and 12 of drinking water quality management system will be followed by having an endorsement of the drinking water licensing. I would need signatures, I believe, from the REEV and CAO on that, Public Works. So there's some highlights on the that too with the REEV. The REEV council is to allocate resources. The CAO part of the budgeting, and the Public Works Director is direction to us as the operating authority. So Wingham Water, and we've applied the water on here. These are some maintenances, improvements, capital items that we've taken and underdone. Number 1 here is the pre-contact and point of entry chlorine analyzer. If there are some acronyms there, please put your hand up and say, what do you mean by that? So POE is a point of entry. That's where some of this is monitored. That was replaced at well 4. There's some new water main on North and Arthur Street. We did Wingham distribution flushing spring fall. Maintenance as per our computerized maintenance program. Locates and service turn-offs and ons as required. And in Wingham, there was 3 water main breaks in 2018. For Blythe, again, spring and fall flushing. Did performance preventative maintenance performed. The locates, and also in Blythe last year, 2018, there was 2 main break repairs. For wastewater, I'm going to go off my sheets. I think this is last year's, because we didn't replace the UVs. This is last year's. Must be. Okay, we'll get you the new one, but I'll read it. I've got the current one right here. Preventative maintenance completed as per the computer-generated maintenance program. Sewer flushing as needed. Camera sanitary sewers as needed. Responder sewer backups as directed. So that is both Wingham and Blythe wastewater plants. Same thing. The inspections, which is the Ministry of Environment and Conservation's parks, it has changed from Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. They changed the name last year. Wingham was inspected October 23rd, 2018. Received 100% on the inspection rating. Blythe drinking water system was inspected December 21st, 2018, and also had 100% on the inspection rating. For those familiar with the drinking water quality management system, call it DWQMS, that has on your website, you have access to it, to read it, to look at it. We are required and externally audited, and that's performed by NSF International, August 20th, 2018. There were no non-conformances observed from their audit, external audit. This year will be a full scope on-site audit for 2019, and the verifications audit scheduled tentatively is August 15-16 of this year, 2019. Water taking limits. You are well under your permit to take water. These are, again, last year. They look very similar to the charts up there. Red is what you're allowed, blue is what you've used. So again, the numbers will be a little off because I have the 2018 data. I don't know how 2017 is on this one, but Well 3 and well 4 for Wingham was 11,807 last year. So we're still under our peak, or our annual total of over 20. Sorry, I apologize that it isn't up there. 12,000 total. Peak flows, maximum daily flow was 2,195 for 18% of the maximum. Well 3 operated at 27% of its full capacity. Well 4 operated at 35% of its full capacity. So Blythe, same idea. Again, that's last year's. Very similar. We're allowed a total from well 1, 2, and 5, 3,504 cubic meters per day. Well 1 was at 45% of capacity. Well 2 was 34.5 at capacity. Well 5 was at 26.7 at capacity. Therefore, your maximum taking was around 29% of what you're capable of taking per your permit. Now, the next is I have for the capacity of Blythe and Wingham wastewater plants. There was some bypasses. Some of them are related to a secondary bypass, so that would be Wingham. One bypass in Wingham Sewage Treatment Plant, May 8th, 2018. Operator error resulted in the UV light switch being turned off. Reported to the Minister of Environment, lasted approximately 24 hours with 2,400 cubic meters. That's called a secondary bypass. So therefore the UV lights weren't on, but the treatment process been completed. Reported to Wingham and also to the Minister of Environment. Now Blythe is a little different. It had 3 of them. They are basically due from heavy precipitation infiltration that causes the plant to bypass its full treatment because it cannot keep up with the inflow of water. Wastewater, raw water, a lot of that infiltration will be stormwater at those bypasses.
How bad is it? How serious is it when the bypass occurs?
Serious in the sense that it's gone through some treatment, but it's a bypass and you don't want to have bypasses, but the bypass can be corrected by enlarging the plant, sealing off the collection where infiltration may be. The ministry is aware of these things and we report them as required. Much of the water is storm water, rainwater. So it's not good, but it's something that cannot be helped. The Wingham one with the UV lights, that can be helped. That's an operator error. Put in root cause analysis, corrective action, so it can't happen again.
No fine.
No fines. No.
Yeah.
Good question. I think what you want to know is when these things aren't reported. If there's an issue, that's when the fines come, and that's why the ministries actually come and inspect us all the time to ensure everything's right.
Sorry. Well, that's okay, because I want to ask a question too. Well,
Yes,
while
please.
this is on that. So the stormwater you're talking about is just falling into the top of the lagoon. How can that much affect it? So how does that-
There could be infiltration problems in the collection, older systems, stormwater and sanitary could have a crossover where when your storm gets full and it can't go anymore, there's a bypass overflow in the pipes underground that go into the sanitary lines and flood out the wastewater plant.
So would this be an ongoing problem in Blythe, or this is just a new one?
I can't speak to how many times that I could ask Don, but Nicholson, who was here previously, I would like to say there's 4 or 5 every year, 3 this past year.
So are we in a situation where we need to be looking at that and financing for that? Do we have somebody above our heads coming down on us saying, we're not going to accept this anymore? Federal, provincial?
Federal Fisheries Act is new now for wastewater. So they're taking a little more interest into it. They're also going to try to remove chlorine from wastewater plants throughout Ontario. So it probably is coming down the pipe shortly. Again, I think the plant can handle the capacity that the residential waste and some industrial waste come to it. But the infiltration can be resolved by cammering sewers, checking for the crossover interconnection.
And just doing away with,
Pardon me.
and then just doing away with the connection.
Resolving so there doesn't have that connection would make a big difference here.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Did the wastewater drain into the Blythe Creek, the upgrades to Mill Street last year? Would they be, was that to any help to the system? Changing that flow?
I think we've seen some difference. Yes, I can get some specific plant data, but the bypasses are not as extreme with that.
I just wondering whether the bypasses, this data was gathered before or after making that correction to Mill Street.
This was up until 2018 so December 31st. So it was up until
I may not have the information or the new data from
new data. I don't have it with me, but I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen one to date yet. One, no, I don't think we reported one. So this year we haven't had one.
We would have seen that, what they did on Mill Street. The wastewater for rainwater.
Right, that tail end of Mill Street was primarily for, it was basically the outlet for the storm system. So if anything, it could have helped with some surcharging. That would, you know, if there was any impact, it'll be more to do with surcharging because we've created a much better outlet. So anything that's coming from the streets, from the leaders in, isn't in that, you get backed up as regular.
So to back onto wastewater, for the removal of the wastewater, we had approximately anywhere from 90 to 98% removal of solids, phosphorus in the treatment processes required by the ECA's environmental compliance. So we're completing what we need to do for treatment. The effluent's good. For Blythe, it was anywhere from 92% to almost 96% of removal of the products before effluent is discharged into the receiving bodies. The other thing I will go back to water. There's something called an AWQI. It's called an Adverse Water Quality Indicator, AWQIs. These are similar to the wastewater bypass reports that we present to the ministry. These are made in relation to water. Wingham, there was no adverse water quality incidents. In Blythe, there were three. I will speak to the first one, which is an adverse water quality of a sample taken in a home. It was actually in a kitchen tap. We had one total call form and one EC, and those actually come in, and we are to sample upstream, downstream of the house, and resample the house. The resamples get located back zeros. Something might have been on the tap or something that got in the bottle, wasn't in the water. So those all were clear samples afterwards. Other ones that have been reported to the ministry and also to our representative here, that sodium and fluoride naturally occurring in Blythe are exceeding the limits. And that is important to let the health unit know so they can inform anyone, doctors, otherwise, of patients that have low or high sodium needs, where that is. What the limit is 20 milligram per liter. 20 is almost like a part per million, 20 part per million. It is 23.1, so it's just over the limit they like. And fluoride, which is naturally occurring, the sample was 1.77 part per million milligram per liter. And the maximum acceptable they like is 1.5. That's why they're exceeding. They're naturally occurring. There's nothing really to be done to treat it. This area in Huron County, many of the systems we look after exceed in those two parameters. I apologize how 2017, the council before had probably already seen that one. We will ensure the 2018 gets to you. All the slides in that. Oh, you have it.
Yeah.
Just
Oh.
It's just you.
That comes to wherever this one is. I'll just whip down there. It's probably questions. It should be there somewhere. And if I went over anything too quick or a little more information, and yes, I have to present to Morris Turnberry mid-April is when they have me set. And that information will then be present.
Questions or comments? We're going to start with Trevor. You had your hand up? No? Okay. Anybody? Go ahead, Paul first.
The sanitary, the water were way under usage there. How were we in the sanitary part?
For capacity and
Yes.
Good, except for the maximum days, the exceedances, when we go over with the infiltration. Other than that, for the town and for what's there right now, without infiltration, it's fine. The graph, you guys, I believe, had that graph, shows that the one that exceeds maximum, those are the times that they go over during events we report bypasses. The other one should be the average running time on your wastewater, same as Wingham. The Wingham chart, if you have the wastewater one, it looks extremely high compared to the level that's allowed, is because the meter reads the excessive flow that comes into the plant in high melts, rains, and it is diverted to the lagoons. Once the weather slows down and we can treat at the rate we're supposed to and allowed to treat, it's brought back in through from the lagoons to the process. So it's not a bypass ever. The bypass we had was because the UV units were not on.
See, Kevin, you had a question?
Yes, concerning the Blythe, both wastewater and potable water, with the new buildings being presented, lots being presented in Blythe, increasing our capacity, and possible other new building in our area. Is there any way of putting I guess layman's terms for myself and other counselors as to how many households or how many usages we have in spare there, how much we would have to go before we have to decide on hearing?
If you're, I'll probably ask Sean also. If you're using for water, you have the 3 well systems there permit to take water, you're 30%. I think when that water usually gets up into the 70%, you better start thinking about increasing your capacity, putting storage in or another well. So you've got 35–40% more to get to that point for water. Yeah. Wastewater, again, if there is a way, and you're not the only municipality deals with problems with the infiltration on your sewage plants, there are some others. The capacity there isn't bad, but I think that's an older plant and it might be time to start putting money aside to get it ready for upgrades.
And Kevin, we're going to let Sean follow up with that for the answer to your question.
If I may, Reeve, just to build on what John has said, part of that whole master servicing plan that's being currently undertaken by BM Ross is to do a very detailed look at capacity for both Wingham and Blythe. Once, now I've seen the draft document, but once it's all finalized, it'll look at our current development, proposed or potential development based on available properties, build that all into the sizing of the plant and the capacity. It's going to basically cover all of that off and in addition talk to 50-year growth. So you do have all of that information coming at you within the next few months in great detail.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not, I think, John, not more a question, it's just an overall comment. I've been a counselor for 4.5 years, and I will be I think this probably Reed Bailey was a counselor when here. Infiltration has been a concern in North Huron for more than my term on council and probably more than most people's term on council and ratepayers. I think we need to get a better sense of when we hear infiltration, is it stuff that we can actually do to solve the infiltration, or is it stuff, what do we need to do to make infiltration be as limited as possible from a perspective of what we can actually do versus, well, you can spend billions of dollars and you're going to still have infiltration. I think that's the conversation, the question that I have in my head about infiltration, because we hear about it all the time. What does that mean for us in our water system on when we have infiltration?
Okay. On the infiltration on the wastewater plant, before my time here in Wingham, now I was quite familiar with the project happening. Your main street here resolved a lot of the problems in infiltration and redoing the whole sewer. But that was a fairly big adventure. That was costly and a lot of money. There are small things you can do as cammering, which we have worked with Sean on cammering certain portions of each town, Wingham and Blythe. And you can fix infiltration, cross connections by cammering and fixing them. Sometimes the best way to do that is if you are doing a road construction project. Do it at that time, because if you're going to dig down and rip everything up because your sewer is basically on the bottom, why wouldn't you do your other stuff while you're there?
Yep.
There are other methods I've seen when I worked in Clinton, lining certain portions that are bad. You can pull like a sock through. You heat them with steam and it's fiberglass, and then you put the coal to it and it seals them up. So that's less intrusive on your property, but still a cost. So cammering and you find them is the best way. Cross connections. I know a town that puts certain blocks in their storm sewer, like wood blocks numbered, and they're marked on a map and put wherever. And if they're caught at the town, at the wastewater treatment plant, then it's reported to the engineer of the town or whomever, that one. So there's got to be a connection problem there. So those aren't real expensive fixes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Can I just touch back to the water capacities and the water itself? So we're told we have to pretty well put a new tower in Wingham.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's coming up financially, I believe, next year. We're starting to work on that. The other one is Blythe. When I was on council years ago, we were just starting to talk about putting a new well in, and I haven't kept up with it. So I believe we put the new well in, but we don't have a tank for it. It's just strictly the well itself.
Correct.
And we're fine with that. We don't have a worry for fire department or anything.
The well operates on a pressure basis. There is the reservoir that was existing there. Well 5 will come on to help with excessive flows or fire flows at the time. It will ramp up. It's on a VFD. So the VFD is variable frequency drive electronics that it sees the pressure drop and it can ramp up. Normally the well pump will just run at a lower bottom end of it to maintain pressure and when it's required. So that way you wouldn't need a reservoir. Myself personally, I love standpipes. I love elevated tanks because they solve a whole host of problems of pressure issues. Just it's there. If something power transfer to your generators, your water tower reservoirs and standpipes are great. But the one in Blythe is a backup generator, and if the power goes out, it fires up. So we've seen a big improvement in the pressure, and I think the guys when they're flushing commented on that. I'm not sure about the fire department what they've found, if anything.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much, sir. We do appreciate this information.
Thank you. I apologize about that. I wondered why it said 2017.
Everything is good. Oh, sorry. So I need a motion here for that the Council Township of North Huron hereby receive the annual activity report as presented by John Graham from Viola at the March 18, 2019 council meeting as presented. Trevor's first, second is Chris. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is Mr. Peter Smith. Would you kindly step forward?
Reeve, council, staff, guests, thanks for taking a bit of time. I'm here to request a recommendation to close Highway 4 between Mill and King Street in Blythe on July 21st of this year. We would like to do another Fair on 4. I don't know, well, actually, Rick, I remember you were there. I think some of you were at Fair on 4. It is for the Canadian Centre for Rural Creativity. That's the reason we're doing it. We're going to invite 1,419 of our closest friends if the recommendation goes through. And it'll be a gourmet dinner that we served on from wheelbarrows actually the last time. We'll probably use the same method this time. And just to give you a sense of where this came from for our guests, in 2014, when we kicked off the Blythe Arts and Cultural Initiative 1419, we thought we'd have a dinner. And we started with about 200 people, and then it grew to 1,419 people, and we turned away about 300 or 400 people. And it was a roaring success. It was quite anxiety driving for the people who were organizing it, but ultimately it saw a lot of people from the local community, but also people came from far away to our particular part of the world. And it was an impressive outing. It scared the lights out of all of us, really. But it was something that kicked off that initiative, I think, in a really bold way, in an ambitious way. So what's happening right now with our project is the Blythe Arts and Cultural Initiative in 2014 was always going to end in 2019. It was always going to be, that was going to be the length of time that it went through. And within that time, we wanted to do 3 things. We wanted to revitalize the Blythe Memorial Community Hall. We wanted to create the Canadian Centre for Rural Creativity, and we wanted to establish the Rural Trust for long-term sustainability. Well, as you know, the Blythe Memorial Community Hall has gone through an incredible renovation, revitalization. It was a 20th century building and is now a 21st century facility. Blythe Centre for the Arts is certainly a recipient, but so is the community. I think culturally, creatively, that building has been there for almost 100 years. It's a testament to rural, it's a testament to community. It is a place that draws people in. It's like a lighthouse, and it has been for me, certainly my entire time coming up here since 1985. So by having this dinner in 2019, it'll give us an opportunity to thank some people. And some of those people include Karen Stewart, include Denise and Pat Newson, who was here before, Sharon, Wayne. There's a lot of people who contributed to this. North Huron contributed $500,000 to Memorial Hall, and it was a very, very much needed. In fact, that was an anchor for us. We had local people participating. We had the provincial government, the federal government. People came on side because they saw this thing as something vital. So we want to thank all the people that participated in the Blythe Arts and Cultural Initiative 1419. We also want to celebrate the Canadian Centre for Rural Creativity. Without going into too much detail about what we're planning for the CCRC, there are some interesting programs coming forward and some new partners that are coming aboard that I'll come back and talk to you about at a later time. But really, this particular ask is for a recommendation to be able to close the highway in order for us to serve the meal on the 21st. So I'm certainly open to any questions you may have, and that's really my pitch.
Is there any questions or comments for Peter? Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry, Chris.
Reeve, through you, Reeve. Peter, just, I know it's Sunday, but what was the traffic flow like? Did it work?
Yes, it did actually. And again, North Huron were very involved in that. We went down by, is it, I remember the street down by Howson's. We take a left there. Westmoreland, thank you. And then straight up Mill and then across Wellington. So it actually worked out pretty well. And we closed it from about 7 o'clock, and by 10, I think we had it back rolling. So a real team of about 150 people were in there just tearing down and putting everything back to rights. So it worked out okay. There was, I think the support was pretty incredible for the event. It was kind of not a once in a lifetime, but once in a very rare time that we're going to do this. But ultimately it was, it brought everyone to the street. And I don't know if you've seen photographs of that particular street from its entire history. It seems to be the place where people gather, is at the street. It is common for everybody. There's no socioeconomic difference. Dogs, horses are welcome. I've got photographs of that highway filled with people. Like when the war ended, when the train station came, like it is the place for me where the whole community is welcome. So this is an opportunity for that.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll read the motion that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby support the request for Peter Smith regarding the road closure on Sunday, July 21st, 2019, between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. County Road Number 4, Queen Street and Blythe, between Westmoreland and Wellington Street, to allow for the Canadian Center for Rural Creativity to hold a second Fair on 4 gourmet dinner on the main street for 1,419 guests. Do I have a mover? Rick McBurney and Kevin Faulkner. All in favor?
Awesome. So I'll be pitching you tickets. Thanks a lot, everybody.
The free ones?
I know, no problem. So they get
10 right here.
paid.
Oh, 10.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. That ends the delegations. We're going to go into the reports now. Clerk's Department. And we have shelter planning report. Sorry. Oh, sorry, Shetler. Sorry, I do apologize, fellas. Shetler planning report. Go ahead. Do you want me to read the motion first, or do you want to go into it? Okay. Let's read the motion first then. That the Council of Township of North Huron accept the recommendations of the planner Laura Simpson and approve the proposed zoning amendment for Part North, Part Lot 28, Concession 10, 38553 Belfast Road. And I would like you to speak to that.
Thanks. So I'll just, Laura's not able to be here tonight, so she did ask me just to review her report for the benefit of council and for the public. So just for the benefit of those who maybe were not here at the last council meeting, the purpose is a zoning bylaw amendment application, and the intent is to change a portion of the zoning on the property to general agricultural special zone from general agriculture to permit a proposed school in the northwest corner of the farm to service the surrounding Forest-Drawn community. The proposed area subject to the rezoning is approximately an acre. The balance will continue to remain zoned for agricultural purposes. On March the 4th, our last council meeting, there was a public meeting, and at that time, council deferred the application at that time. There were some concerns raised with respect to safety, with respect to children using Belfast Road, and Lavis Contracting had expressed some concern with respect to them using the same road for their trucks. So staff, there were some discussions and some meetings, and which resulted in the applicant agreeing agreeing to the proposed school and existing sawmill on the property to share an entrance onto Belfast Road. So rather than each of them, the school having an access and the other having an access, there's going to be shared access to minimize in terms of entrance onto the highway. There was also some discussion with respect to some signage, with respect to alerting that this is a school zone, and also to reduce the speed in this area to 50 kilometers an hour. So these were some mitigation measures that have been discussed and have been agreed to. Lavis Contracting, who had raised concern, has been provided with an update in the recommendations, and they've since provided correspondence stating that they have no objection to the application being approved. And as part of that, there was a memorandum of understanding that was presented between Lavis Contracting and individuals, and more specifically, understand the applicants. And that memorandum has been signed, and it was presented to me tonight by Lavis Contracting, so with original signatures. So on that basis, as the REIT has indicated in the motion, the recommendation is for council to approve the zoning bylaw amendment as presented.
I will
Comments
move
or questions?
it. I will
You're
move
gonna
it.
move first. Paul is gonna second it. Trevor and Paul. Comments and questions from the council? Seeing none. Go ahead.
Just one read, I'm just relieved that, the deferral has been moved to an approval of it. I certainly think it's a good idea. We're certainly helping, this community.
I'm just gonna add to that too. Does anybody else wanna? So, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I was just going to reiterate what Chris has had. I saw this as a no-brainer really when it first came through. I thought it really would have went through the first night with no problem. But it's good that it went through the process and that both sides were to come to conclusion that benefited both. And I wish them well in their new building and their new school.
Anyone else? So I just want to point out for the fellows that are here tonight that, I had a conversation with Laura too, because I think it was a good idea right from the start. I'm sure you're going to see a unanimous vote here. We are a community of communities. We all want to work together. We do have laws that we have to conform to, and our building inspector will be out there watching things. And I know you fellows are going to get along just great, and everything's going to be kosher, because we are a community of communities. But we all have to obey the same rules. I'm really happy the way this is turning out for you folks. And I would just like to say that maybe a little ways down the road, I'm going to be reaching out to you folks for some help in a couple of projects I have. I'm hoping to see a return on that. Having said that, I call the motion, or I call the vote. And that was unanimous. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
You need a school.
There's always a payback. Finance Department. Donna Zell.
Thank you. So thank you, council. Here we are on March the 18th with what we hope is our final budget presentation for 2019. And I want to go through some of the changes that we've had since our last meeting. And for the public and for those watching at home, I do want to give a bit of an overview, but I'll move through it fairly quickly. So as you know, through the budget process, there are 4 stages. The first stage is the planning stage. This process is very complex and lengthy. We review priorities from council. We take a look at our grants and our projects. We start gathering information in the fall, and we go through many cuts in order to get where we need to be. There's a number of factors involved, such as increased costs, inflation, priorities, decreased funding, where we want to end up as our target, and the previous year actuals. The next phase is our implementation phase, and that translates the budget numbers into action. So the tenders go out and we start making purchases. And all throughout the year, we try to get the very best price that we can on whatever goods and services that we are purchasing. Phase number 3 is a monitoring phase. It's a continuous process, and it certainly doesn't stop with the passing of the budget. We have constant review, and we have to, amongst the department heads, we're constantly looking at our reports and reporting back to council on how we're doing throughout the year. The last stage is the evaluation phase, and we evaluate our current operations and procedures and determine where we can make any changes for the next budget year, and we file our annual reports. So what do we spend your money on? You have seen this slide before, but just to go through it very quickly, we have council and administration, animal control, emergency planning, planning and development. We have the North Huron Fire Department, and we have 2 stations, Wingham and Blythe. We have some debt payments. We have the North Huron Museum, which is currently under review. We have sanitary sewer systems in Wingham and Blythe. We have policing. So right now we have the OPP contract for Wingham, and in Blythe and East Wawanosh we have OPP, but we don't have a contract for them. We have cemeteries in Wingham and Blythe, and we have several closed cemeteries. Throughout the Child Care Center, there's a number of programs before and after, early on and early learning. We have a number of parks, trails, playgrounds, sports fields in both Wingham and Blythe and throughout the North Huron. We pay into the Maitland Valley Conservation Levy. We have the Wingham Trailer Park in conjunction with the partnership with the Wingham Legion. We have the Blythe Campground. We have the airport. We provide building official and property standard services. We have the North Huron West Cast Community Complex. We have the Blythe Arena and Hall. We make contributions to the Belgrave Arena, which is operated by a board. We have water systems in Wingham and Blythe, and we pay our share of the Belgrave system, which is owned by Morris Turnberry. We provide drainage services. We have community development or economic development. We have the Memorial Hall building and meeting room, which is run by 1419. Through our waste department, we operate the Wingham and East Wawanosh landfill, although the East Wawanosh landfill is closed to the public, and we pay our share of the Blythe Hullet landfill. We have the Wingham Library, the Blythe Library, which is we lease from an owner in Blythe. We maintain a number of kilometers of roads, bridges, and traffic and signal lights. We make donations and community commitments. We have streetlights in Blythe and Wingham and some in the hamlets. And we have quite a wide range of rec programs, fitness programs, aquatic programs, day camps, and all sorts of activities down at the complex for programs. So we certainly offer a wide range of services for a municipality this size. So one of the questions we always talk about are why are taxes so high? So again, I just talked to you about the wide range of facilities and programs, which are usually provided by a much larger municipality. We have low overall taxable assessment. We have low average assessment, especially on older homes, with a low population base, and our geography plays against this. So if you think about our geography, we're a long, narrow strip, and in comparison to somewhere like Goderich was in a clump, Goderich doesn't have quite the double our population, but they're certainly servicing a much larger population with fewer assets than what in comparison to what we have. So for example, we have 3 public works yards, they have 1. We have 2 libraries, they have 1. We pay into 3 landfills, they pay into 1. They do have 2 full arenas, which Goderich has 2 full arenas, but we pay for 2 full arenas plus into Belgrave. We have 2 fire stations, 2 campgrounds, the trailer park here and the campground down in Blythe. We have 2 theaters, a theater upstairs and Memorial Hall and theater down at Blythe Festival down in Blythe. We have the airport and the museum. So we have 33 buildings to look after, and we have lots of tough decisions to make over the next 4 years. The previous council has made some tough decisions in the last short while, and you folks have continued with that. Some of those were selling the EST, transferring to the OPP. Last year, they closed the concession booths. They've closed the museum until they get a firm decision on that. They changed to bi-weekly recycling. So those are just some of the changes that they made throughout this last while to try to keep our taxes low. So I know the printing on here is very small, but this is a slide showing the lower tier assessment in Huron County. And as you will see, and to our dismay, North Huron has the lowest assessment out of the whole county. So this is total assessment, not taxable assessment. So as you know, some of the assessment is weighted at 25%, et cetera. So some of the municipalities may have more assessment than us, but they only can collect taxes based on 25%. But overall, it just gives you a bit of a visual on how low our assessment really is in North Huron. And I know that one of council's priorities is to grow that assessment through development. So it certainly coincides with this slide. Next slide though, year after year we hear people say, well, you can't sell a property in North Huron, the tax is too high, nobody will buy anything here. Well, for quite a few years we monitor the property sales, and so again, in 2018, we had 91 properties sell in Wingham, 31 in Blythe, 25 in East Wawanosh. So we had a total of 147 sales as opposed to 151 sales. And the value of those sales was 32,716,000 as opposed to last year, 39,388,000. So the number is down, and the number of sales is down slightly, and the value's down slightly, but still all in all, that's pretty good showing. The nominal value, just for a note, is to say that a lot of properties change hands for $1. They're changing the titles and such things. So we don't obviously count that. That would distort the number of sales. So we have those small sales where they're for $1 and cleaning up property titles, which are listed under nominal value. So I just wanted to make sure that I clarified that they're not part of the overall numbers. So changes since version 2. So when we last met, we were in pretty good shape, but we knew we still had some work to do. Although council, I think at that meeting, all here said they were happy with the budget to the point it was at, and we still had some work to do on policing. So since then, a few things have come to light. So Sean, I think, will be speaking to this later this evening, but through information that Sean has, we've redirected the same amount of money that was in the capital budget for a trail bridge audit in Wingham, and that's been redirected to the Blythe Trail Bridge. I'm not sure of the exact name of it, but Sean will go over that. And so that's actually been moved to the operating budget. It still shows up in your capital budget change until you've had the opportunity to hear Sean speak about it, but I just wanted to let you know. So that was $8,141, and so it's just been reallocated from one project to the other and hasn't affected your budget. Last meeting, council approved by resolution some audio-visual upgrades. So you approved $6,000 to purchase some screens to transmit the like these presentations to the walls so that everyone could see them. And then also there's going to be more of a maintenance item, $4,000 to upgrade some of the doors and the security. One of the things that came to light after last meeting, Sean and I were talking that we still need to do the top coat on Arthur Street. That's a shared project with Morris Turnberry. So we had to add in a straight $14,000 into the budget. On the police side of things, Trevor gave you a update on the budget last meeting. And since then, we've had a few other things that have changed as well. So I was able to, in speaking with the board, didn't have any objection in adding in some of the grant money. We're not 100% sure that we're going to get the grant money. In the past, we would get $110,000. So I've only put in $55,000 as a conservative estimate for grants under the OPP. We are sure of assets sold so far belonging to the police department was $28,200, so that's been worked into the budget. And Trevor went through last meeting the increases and decreases, but he asked me to take one more look at the benefit line after all the final payouts were made on March the 7th, which I did. And at that time, we had quite a high number of benefits at $94,000. And we were able to reduce that by $39,000. So that had all of those things had quite an impact on the Wingham ward through the policing. So we're happy about that. In the administration, nothing really changed there, but with the starting date of our new clerk, then we've switched around to do some training and contracts and those types of things. So there hasn't been any increase in there. In fact, a small decrease, but we've reallocated some items to fit our new training needs and some of those things. In the council remuneration line, if you may remember, last budget, I had budgeted for council to have 4 special meetings a month, and here we are in March, and I think we're going to be able to get away with 3. So that allowed me to take $9,000 out of the council training budget, meeting pay budget, and I think we're fine with that. The next 2 items are 2 big things. In our computer capital upgrades with Continuit for our new IT company, they have requested that we actually spend a total of $60,000 over upgrade, to do a number of system upgrades. And they wanted it all done at once, but we didn't feel the way the budget was looking before that we could possibly do it. So with some of the changes around that we have and the percentage had dropped, we're bringing forward that whole project be done, and we're hoping that it's going to alleviate some of the many computer problems that we're having right now. So I don't know, Dwayne, if you have anything else you want to add on that at this point. But, so that's a big change from the last budget. And the other big change is I was just about to hit workflow on my report the other day so that it could go onto the agenda. And I noticed a letter came in from OMPF. So OMPF is our grant allocation, which the province said that they were maintaining for us this year. But they updated our assessment numbers and our household numbers. So although the program has been maintained the same, we lost $36,100. So at that very minute, as I said, all the reports were finished and we were ready to put them on the agenda. So I went to Sean and asked Sean, now where in our budget could we find an amount of that equal to be able to offset this loss in revenue? So at the time we had decided for the landfill, we were going to transfer $100,000 into reserve. And Sean and I talked about it, and he agreed that we could reduce that down by 36.1 in order to keep everything the same to let the budget go forward. So again, that was quite, that they have promised us in the future that those OMPF numbers are going to be available much earlier, because we need them in November when we're working on these budgets. To get them, late in the day in March is getting very difficult for us. So I don't know if there's any comments. I'm going to stop for a second just before I go on and see if council had any comments on these changes since we went from our last meeting.
Any comments, questions?
We can come back to it too before we're done. So
Didn't see any, Don.
okay, so we'll move on. So where did we end up then? So overall, we ended up with a spending increase in dollars. I want to emphasize that that's dollars of 7.97% more than last year, which is $440,787. So a lot of those things I talked about in the police budget is what has contributed to that. So our total expenses this year is $18,250,986. So our operating budget is $13,956,665, and then as you'll see on our next few pages, our capital budget is $4,294,321, and we have total revenue coming in of $11,943,333, and then the difference between the two is what we have to raise from taxation. So we are raising $5,969,587 from taxation. We raised $3,951,789, which is raised on the base rate, so that's what everybody pays. We have $2,010,873 raised from area rating, and we'll go over that in a second. And then we have $6,925 raised from the flat rate streetlights, and water and sewer, as you know, has no effect on the tax rate because it's fully funded by user fees. So the special area rates for Wingham, the total amount area rated to just the ward of Wingham is $1,651,505. The police attributes $1,543,505 to that, and the balance is for street lighting in the amount of $108,000. Blythe has OPP policing of $173,727 and street lighting of that should be $135,000. Should be $135,000. I've got something wrong there. I'll have to check that. No, $35,278. $35,278 for Blythe. And East Wawanosh then has $150,363 for OPP policing, And then we do a number of flat rate streetlights for the hamlets. So also at this time, I've not received the BIA budgets, and so they need to be adopted by council as well. So I've put out a note to those folks to get those budgets in, and we'll have to get those passed. So next, I know this is fairly small print, but I think you can still see it, is the 2019 capital list. So of course, our big item is the fire hall / public works garage combination, and that's estimated at $2,505,000. So if you take our total $4,294,000, take off the $2,505,000, we're really only looking at what I call regular capital of $1,789,000. So we'll go through what that consists of. So we have Carling Terrace, the roads portion, $331,500. We have Rutledge subdivision, North Street and Blythe, $147,552. Sean is hoping to keep working on the rural roads, tar and chip at $87,885. There's a small amount in for the house and dam for engineering and what may come out of that for this year, $15,264. For Arthur Street, we have that top coat, which we just talked about, $14,000. Plow truck for Blythe, $38,669. The trackless mower deck, $17,299. Mower and trailer, $25,000. A gator to get around at the Blythe campground, $10,000. They're adding a pool diving board at the complex for $6,000. A new treadmill in the fitness center for $10,000. Oh, we got a slide in between. So then we have the Blythe Arena. We have, sorry, my slide got off on me here. $4,000 there. The Wingham Public Works, the roof repair is $71,232. And that was a floor scrubber at Blythe Arena. The Wingham Chapel repair, Wingham Cemetery Chapel repair, $45,792. Sean's looking at a number of upgrades here at the town hall, the elevator upgrades and some insulation and ventilation and kiosk upgrades. So the elevator and kiosk upgrades, $11,892, insulation and ventilation at $9,667. Boiler replacement, and it looks after both the both sets of change rooms at the arena. But Vicki, I think you corrected me. It was the arena change room and the pool change room. So Vicki helped me with that correction, but it's going to cost $20,000. So the rail bridge, or I'm not sure what name we're calling that bridge, but it's $8,141. We have the CAS procurement for the Blythe Howlett landfill that Sean has been keeping you updated on, $95,177, and the same at the Wingham landfill, $38,160. You heard John Graham talk about one of those VFD pieces of equipment, and so Sean is also installing one of those at the Wingham standpipe for $25,440. Water's portion of the Carling Terrace project, $132,600. There's going to be some work done at the Blythe pump house, painting, etc. And so there's an air exchanger at the Wingham sewage plant, $15,264. The sewers portion of the Carling Street job, $198,900. And then this is when we get into all those hardware upgrades with Continuit for $60,000. We have a big records management project on this year to buy the software. It's called Laserfish, and Mandy's heading up that project, and it's $27,001. And then the audio visual upgrades were the monitor screens for $6,000 that we just talked about. And then we talked about some of the 2018 projects that didn't get finished last year. So we're working away on the new cemetery software to have all our cemetery software records on computer. And the niche wall at the Wingham Cemetery, there's the streetlight project for Summit Drive, and Sean has been giving you updates on that. The folks upstairs are hoping to finish off their theater renovations this year, and they've been working, and their open house, I think, is March 24th. There is, for once and for all, we're hoping to get to all the leaking problems at the complex. So it's actually may not be referred to really as a roof leak, but it's interior work that will lead to hopefully fixing all of that up. And some CO2 monitors at the Blythe Arena. So that's your $4,294,321 that we were looking at. So I just wanted to just say briefly, so this is all capital. Capital items are amortized, usually have a useful life of at least 5 years. So a new vehicle is obviously an example of capital, but sometimes it's not that easy. If you do a huge repair to something, so say for example, last year we did a $40,000 repair to the BOMAG out at the landfill. Well, that thing's now been rebuilt, so we do amortize that because it extends the life of it. Sometimes also it takes us a couple of years to save up for these projects, so we have to put money into reserves in order to be able to have the money available. And also you can see from our list and some of things that happened last year, for us, capital is not always new. We have purchased when the opportunity arises to buy something that will suit our needs used, then we do that. And again, through Sean's department, he purchased 2 used trackless last year. He had the price of a brand new one in his budget, but he ended up buying 2 used. So as I said, for us, we look at everything to see where we're going to get the best bang for our buck. Other important items I just wanted to bring to your attention. So the water and sewer master plan are still underway. We have about $130,000 left to do there. We'll be bringing forward, hopefully we're starting to see some of these pieces brought forward to you. One of them will be a rate study for water and sewer rates for Blythe, Belgrave, and Wingham. As you know, that's where we had implemented the $15 a month for our capital reserve, and we did a 5-year plan at 3.5% increase per year. So we will be looking at another 5-year plan, but I'm not sure at this time what it's going to say. The hospital donation, you know, we committed to that. We have to pay $50,000 in 2019 and then 2020. So in the term of your council, hopefully we'll see that $50,000 freed up. For Memorial Hall, we're still working on our $500,000 contribution to that project. And so we have $50,000 in the budget this year, which will bring us down to 110. So hopefully in 2020 and 21, again, within your term, I'm hoping that that's paid off. And one last thing that we have committed to. The rec master plan was a carryover from last year, so we're hoping that goes ahead this fall. Our economic development committee, they're working on the Main Street revitalization program. I think there's more information on the agenda tonight about that. Just a couple other notes I thought you, one question we always get asked is how much are wages and benefits. So our total wages and benefits this year is $5,413,028, or 29.65% of our whole budget, but it would be about 38% if you just compared it to the operating budget. Now, some of that is skewed because of the police numbers that we've had for exit costs and such for this year. So our utility costs run us about $865,000 a year. Sean wanted me to make note that we're going to replace and repair various pieces of sidewalk for $10,000. He continues with his team to work on the giant hog weed control, $13,000. And in the cemetery budget, he has $4,500 for leveling various monuments that need some care. And we have the strategic plan is still in the budget at $10,000. I didn't put the dollar figure there. So one other thing I wanted to make note of was I did this up after thinking that you may ask the question is transfers to and from reserve. So our total transfer to reserve has changed slightly from those numbers I gave you, but it's still $1,218,000, and of course, almost $600,000 of that over that is for the water and sewer, that $15 that we collect per month. But our transfer from reserve is 1,486,000. So we're actually taking more out of reserves at $267,000 and putting in, and that's mainly to do with the policing for this year because we've drained out our Westario money. It was $416,000. We're offsetting the police cost by $544,000 coming out of reserve. So again, one-time things. Debt obligations, I just wanted to go over those quickly. So we still owe $101,000 on the rink grant. The EST grant, as you know, we paid off on January the 18th. We still have the greater loan of $139,882. The fire payouts $484,386. The road projects we owe $83,776. So our total debt and principal and interest payments for included in this budget is $132,846 for principal and $31,434 for interest, for a total of $164,000. So right now we have $809,000 owing in debt, which for a place our size and all the things we have, that's not too bad that we're under $1 million in debt. Not to say it's going to stay that way, but let's hope.
Donna, can you just,
Yes.
if you don't mind, the fire payouts, can you just refresh my memory what they are, how much we're paying off, when it will be done?
Yeah, so the fire payouts, that was $838,000 that we borrowed for 15 years. And we borrowed that when the fire boards were disbanded in 2009. We had to pay our partners out in order to get the equipment so that North Huron could offer the service. So those fire payouts won't be done until 2026. So we still have a ways to go on those.
So we're only paying about less than, what, $30,000, $40,000 a year then?
No, we are paying about 78,000 on that.
Like with interest though.
Yes, with interest.
So you're only about 40,000 in principal?
The principal is 50 something, 55. Yeah. Okay. So where did we end up? So listening to you folks, election time, so right now, one of the things we normally do is though we talk about how much goes to the county and how much goes to school boards and all that. We don't have that information yet because the county will be passing their budget hopefully this month or the 1st of April. And the school boards, I'm not sure when we're going to get that information from. So the base rate, you can see that our total base rate is $3,951,789. So 51% of that comes from Wingham, 18% from Blythe, and 31% from East Wawanach. The area rate, of course, it only makes sense that the bulk of that comes from Wingham through the Wingham policing, which we've just talked about. So 82% of the area rate dollars of $2,010,000 comes from Wingham. And then Blythe has both OPP and some street lighting, so they're 10%, and East Wawanach only has the OPP, so they're 8%. But then when you take again, look at as a total, the $5,962,662 is what we collect from tax dollars. So then 61% would come from Wingham, 16 from Blythe, and 23 from East Wawanach. So just gives you a little bit of an idea. So I'll expand this chart further once we get the county and school board so you can see the whole picture there. And then just to give you a comparison on a particular property. So again, we can only focus on the municipal portion tonight. So this property was assessed at $200,000 last year. It's up slightly at $202,750 this year. So that property in Wingham this year will pay $3,048, and that's just the municipal piece, not county and school board. And that same property, if it was in Blythe, would be $2,149, and that same property, if it was in East Wawanach, would be $1,874. So Wingham property, that property in Wingham would see $211.59 increase. Blythe would be $16.67, and East Wawanach $21.60. So For Blythe and East Wawanash, the increases are very, very minimal this year. And we had to do that in order to try to keep Wingham's down to offset some of these policing costs. So that really is a one-time thing. Next year, we'll be back on track where we're more spread out across all the municipalities. And again, I'll show you what this looks like once we get the county and school board. So that is the next steps that I need to do are to wait for the county and school boards. Then we'll finish these charts up. Once we have that, we'll bring forward a bylaw to adopt the tax rates. And the one thing in your budget I haven't had a chance to do since the auditors left is to update any changes on the 2018 actuals. But the night that we do the tax rate bylaw, I'll bring you the budget. At that point, we'll have the 2018 actuals update, but has no effect on what we're just doing here tonight for the 2019. In my report, I just wanted to note quickly, I had also noted, we had looked and concentrated on a residential property, but I had given that same information on a farm property and a commercial property. If you looked at that, I can go over it quickly. Do you have that up on your screens there? The written report that went with the budget. I'll just quickly read that. So a farm property, at the top of page 3, it shows the residential assessed at 200,000, now assessed at 202. We have a farm property that was assessed at 1,707,221 last year. This year now 1,886,860. So if that property were in Wingham, it would go up $1,063, which it wouldn't be because Wingham doesn't have any properties like that. But Blythe, if it was in Blythe, it would go up $468.08, and in East Wawanash, which that's where the property is, it would go up $423.23 on the farm portion of that property only. And then a commercial property, if that same property sat in each of the 3 wards, so it was assessed last year, commercial $825,250. Now it's assessed at $835,250. So it's going to go up $934.19 in Wingham. And again, if it was sitting in Blythe or East Wawanash, that commercial property would only go up $56.96 or $81.78. So just gives you a bit of a overview on how the properties, you have to look at every property, how much it went up, where it is, and all of that. Like, we have no straight answer that the properties go up X dollars.
Yeah, through you, Reeve. Donna, the farm example, is that still at the 0.25?
Yes.
All right. That's it.
Okay, so council, do you have any questions for me? And are you willing to, do you feel you're in a position this evening that we can pass a motion to adopt this budget and move forward, and then we can carry on our business, but we have to wait to pass the tax bylaw until we get the county and the school board rates, which will be in the next
Supposed to be the first week of April.
first week of April, so.
So Don, I just got a question for you on the Wingham ratepayers at the 7%, 8% or whatever it was. That's a big chunk of because of the police. So we move next year, when we go on to next year, we're going to bring that down properly. That'll come into line. This doesn't drag, just so the citizens know, this doesn't drag on and on and on. We are done with the police as of this budget, and now we're into a normal situation, even though we're still going to be paying higher for the OPP for at least the next 3 years because of a contract we signed.
Yeah, what some of the things that we knew that we were going to have to deal with are those one-time capital costs to the OPP, and then the one-time exit costs. So luckily, we had a lot of money in reserves to offset those costs. I mean, or this would have been even worse. But anyway, so for next year, we won't have those costs. We'll simply be paying the OPP their yearly rate, which is, still enough money. I mean, it's still going to have the Wingham taxes are still going to be certainly higher than Blythe and East Wawanash, but we just don't have these extra capital costs to deal with.
Yeah, the one-time costs, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm going to read the motion. First of all, I'll ask if there's any questions or comments for Donna. Not seeing any. The motion is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receive the 2019 budget report from the Director of Finance for information purposes. And further, that the Council of the Township of North Huron adopt the 2019 budget as presented. And further, that a bylaw adopting the budget and the tax rates will be presented at a further council meeting. Do I have a mover? Kevin Faulkner moves. Chris Palmer seconds. All in favor? Motion passes.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Good job.
The safety one is one, too. Donna, you're gonna do the safety one next, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, you won't need that, okay.
No.
Okay. While Donna's getting ready, I'll just read the motion that's about to be presented. That the Council of Township of North Huron hereby receive a report from the Director of Finance in regards to the funding agreement with the Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services for the Court Security and Prison Transfer Program. And further, that the council deems bylaw number 30-2019 to be administrative in nature and approves the exception to section 19.1 of the procedural bylaw to allow this bylaw to be passed at the March 18th, 2019 council meeting. Can I have a mover? Anita and Hinterman, seconder. Paul Heffer. Donna, would you speak to this?
Okay, thank you. So this agreement came in late last week and it relates to the Wingham Police Service supplying court security to the court that is here. So we only had court here with the Wingham Police Service on January, one in January, one in February. So in the past, we've entered into this agreement and it was a 2-year agreement for 17 and 18. And now they're offering a 1-year agreement. I contacted them and said that the Wingham Police Service was disbanded February 21st, and that the potential is that the court's going to be moving away from here as well. But they wanted us to still sign the agreement and at the end of the year reconcile it, and we still will probably get a few $100s out of it. The maximum, as you see, the North Huron allocation is $1,384.57 for the year, but I thought we might as well at least sign the agreement and try to get the whatever few dollars we can out of it. So I won't know till the end of the year how much of that we get, but it was still something. If you didn't do it, then we would probably wonder what we could have got out of it. So.
Questions or comments? I call the vote. Right.
Yep. We were in second.
Yeah.
Yep.
Passes.
Thank you.
Recreation Community Services, I don't see anything. Public Works. My friend, you have a North Huron janitorial service. Come up for me here. I think I'll read the motion first, then we'll let you speak to it. That the Council of Township of North Huron hereby receive a report from the Director of Public Works dated March 18, 2019 regarding the outcome of the janitorial service tender for information. And further, that the staff be authorized to develop a job description and recruit 2 part-time internal and/or external candidates to perform the required janitorial services within budget amounts. I'm gonna ask for a mover. Paul Hepper, seconder, Rick McBurney, and Sean, it's over to you to explain.
Thank you, Reed Bailey. Basically what this comes down to, janitorial services for the town hall here, Wingham Library, as well as the daycare, have been provided by an external service provider. Although there was no formal contract in place to establish that relationship, they were just going on month to month. This has been going on for some time. So the idea was we put a tender out to try to obviously formalize that relationship, as well as to clearly define the deliverables, just to outline our expectations. We put the tender out, we had 3 firms bid. Unfortunately, one of the bids was non-compliant with our procurement policy, so as such, we rejected it. I think one of the key things to note here is that the current level of service costs the township $29,295.40 a year. The 2 bids that we received, one was from SQM Janitorial Services for $74,042, and the other was from Hero Clean for $101,460 for a part-time service. So obviously that put staff in a position where we had to look at our options. Basically, as we see it, there's 4 options that we can consider. First is to continue with the existing arrangement. The point behind that is that there's no formal structure or defined scope with that arrangement. And that was what actually prompted the whole tendering process. Second option being award the contract based on the bid submissions. And even the lowest bid is far, far exceeding what our budget would allow or permit. Next option would be a repost, which would be an acceptable option because the firm that was non-compliant understands how they were non-compliant, and I would expect that would be rectified in the next round. And then finally, and this was the option that we looked at, was consider the idea of hiring our own. One of the reasons we put this out was to really establish that accountability by hiring our own within the amount that we're already spending on the service. That would allow us better oversight and better control over, I think, the product that we get. Basically, when you run the numbers, it works out to approximately 2 hours a day to handle town hall and library, and about 2.5 hours a day to handle the daycare. In the recommendation, you see that we're suggesting 2 people because we don't want to put all of our proverbial eggs in one basket. So it'd be better to break this up, see if there's some community interest in 2 small, really decent little part-time jobs. Can we recruit for that? That remains to be seen, but if it's the will of council, we'll certainly put a job description together and see if there are interested individuals out in the community that would look at a job like that, which is very much a small, part-time, fairly unintrusive job. So all that to say that we felt as staff that this might be a good way to manage our costs now and into the future. If it doesn't work, we can retender. If council doesn't wish to entertain more employees, and I should note that the dollars, when I talk about the overall cost, I factored in the burdening. So that's including benefits and everything like that. So that was included when I talk about that number of hours that we can afford. But should council prefer to go the other route, we can certainly tender. So I think we've got, council has a couple of good options in front of them and a couple of not really good options to consider tonight.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was appalled at the bids that I saw. Anyways, they don't seem to want the job, I guess. Did Weilers rebid, or were they upset that we took this approach?
Through you,
Yes.
Reeve, I had a good conversation with Weilers. They appreciate North Huron's business by all means, certainly. And like I said, if we retender, the issues surrounding bid irregularities would be resolved.
Oh, perhaps they were the other. Okay. I like the idea of this in-house thing, but what Weilers have done for us, any issues? Has it been good? Even though it's kind of loosey, I don't want to say loosey-goosey, but I just did.
Through you, Reeve. I think I really can't complain about the service that we got from Weilers. And I say that because there's no terms of reference or no structure, and that was the whole idea of putting the tender out. It very clearly defined what our expectations are. But, you know, they've delivered the service for a lot of years, and anytime there was concerns, they dealt with the concerns. So no issues with Weilers.
Other questions? Go ahead, Paul.
Would you think this could be a positive step for North Huron to take on new workers, do it that way, try it that way?
Through you, that was the reason for the recommendation. Whether there's interested parties out there remains to be seen, but it's certainly, from a management perspective, it allows us a better immediate oversight. And it's always good to build some flexibility in terms of your structure.
What, Kevin?
Through your rate to Sean. Currently cleans the library in Blythe.
Right now, that's being handled by Vicky's crew through the rec center.
Any other questions? So Sean, I'm going to ask the question that, so if we hire 2 part-time on and we know they're going to be 2 and 2 hours, 1 and 2.5 hours the other, that will stay at that level. Would that have to come before council again if you were to move them up into more hours beyond the financial limits we gave you?
Yes, Reeve, that would be my expectation, and that's why the recommendation was written that way. It gives that maximum limit so that, you know, if we find ourselves going above that budgeted amount, certainly this year, that's something I would not be able to do without going before council. And if there were changes in level of service or cost to deliver the service next year, I think that would be captured in the budget.
Okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
Further in my conversation, I guess over to the rec department, through your review, if that library in Blythe's being done by the rec department during their working days, that no extra, like it's just in their normal daily duties that they perform the units?
Through you,
Yep.
Your Worship. It's done by part-time staff, so it is figured into the daily hours. So they do have time allocated to go do that. So if you're, I don't know, maybe I'm reading into this, but if you're alluding to maybe that could be covered by this other service, or if we went that route, it is possible. I think so. It's part of one of the things that we were working out with Public Works, whether it was what was more efficient. Was it efficient for Public Works to have somebody come down and do the cleaning, or was it efficient for our staff who are already right there in town just to go do?
What I was alluding to was, would that scenario work in Wingham? With your current staff, like you wouldn't have to hire anybody.
Go ahead, Sean.
You're already staffed.
And through you,
Yep.
Reeve, that's what the reference in the recommendation is, internal and external candidates. So obviously the hours, there are part-time staff working at the Westcast Community Center, and their hours are covered. Those same employees may be interested in increasing their hours with the township. It's not that we'd be able to say, okay, on top of what you're doing, go and handle these other tasks. But we're thinking that if we have an established or known good employee that's interested in putting a few extra hours in a week, we certainly would want to offer that internally first.
Go ahead, Anita.
Well, I think to be fair to Weilers, if they have this good job, we should maybe retender this, see what comes from that, and then go from there maybe for internal looking, or is it a?
We'd have to
That's not
defeat
how
this
you look at
motion.
it.
We'd have to defeat this motion, I believe, and then ask for another motion.
Okay.
Just over to you, Sean, if you don't mind. But this does not turn a part-time into a full-time employee, because then we have benefits, et cetera, and we're adding to the crew.
That is correct. Everything we looked at in terms of calculations was on the premise that we don't have any employees that are that close to being full-time.
Okay.
Because that obviously would change the burden.
So just so we all understand, then the motion that's on the floor is to go ahead with part-time. If you wanted to extend another RSVP out for anybody else, you'll have to defeat this motion, not, okay? But if the motion passes, then we don't have to have another. So I'm gonna call the motion. All in favor? Passes. Next, we're gonna go to the Blythe G2G Trail Bridge. Yeah, I think I'll just read the motion first, then we'll get a motion on the floor and let Sean speak to it then. That the Council of Township of North Huron hereby receive the report from the Director of Public Works dated March 18, 2019 regarding the Blythe G2G Trail Bridge for information, and further that the capital project funds for the inspection of the Wingham Rail Bridge be the amount. Should that have said Wingham?
Yes.
Okay, Wingham Rail Bridge be the amount of $8,241 to relocate it to the repair of the G2G bridge. I understand now. Do I have a mover? Anita Van Hitterman, and seconder is Kevin Faulkner. Questions and comments? Oh, sorry, Sean. Do you want to give an explanation here for the council before they can ask questions?
Very happy to, Reeve. This was a very interesting one, the topic of discussion during the budget deliberations. I think everybody understood that this was not a North Huron asset. It was, and after some investigation, we found that it was an asset of the Crown, actually. The important thing to note is that this G2G rail bridge is the topic or subject of a lease agreement that was originally signed back in 2006 between North Huron and the province. The lease was very clearly written, such that all responsibility for the upkeep, maintenance, and repair of that asset fall on the leasee, or the Township of North Huron. The province was very clear that they are to incur absolutely no cost for the upkeep or maintenance of the bridge. Over after the initial term, there's been two, since that initial lease, there's been two lease extensions, 5-year lease extensions, and the most recent one was signed in 2016 and goes to 2021. It had one amendment to it, and in that, I guess they were becoming aware of the condition of the bridge. So in that amending agreement, or they allowed the township the option, aside from repairing it, if they saw that the state of repair was such that it was going to demand financial input, they had the ability to close it. So now we really, council at that point was given two options. You either repair the bridge or you close the bridge. We had an inspection done by BM Ross, and we're very clear that it's time for that decision to be made. If you are to close the bridge, basically you then sever the north-south connection for the snowmobile trail. Plus, it's no longer open for pedestrian use. I should also note, and in your packages, you'll see that there is an agreement with the snowmobile trail. The lease agreement is very clear that they're responsible for any damage that they cause, but not to assist us in the repair of the bridge if it's due to fair wear and tear in this case. So we're definitely in the position where we're on our own. Now, I did talk to the engineers at BM Ross. Their original assessment was that to repair the bridge, to change the decking material and do what needs to be done, you'd be looking at about $50,000. So I questioned them on this, and that was basically for us to pick up the phone, call a contractor, and bring somebody in. We asked if there was anything stopping us from using our own resources picking up the material and doing the repairs. He had absolutely no objection to that whatsoever. So basically, we've sourced out local materials. Using our own resources, we feel that we can repair the bridge for approximately $8,000. And that's with a bit of contingency built in as well. So at that point, I looked at the budget and we had additional dollars in there to inspect the rail bridge here in Wingate. That's just for a more detailed inspection because of its height and complexity. That's a job that needs to be done, but it doesn't need to be done in 2019. So the recommendation before council now is to, in order to maintain the north-south snow machine trail viability, in order to try to maintain the use of the G2G rail bridge crossing, if we were able to have council allow us to reallocate those funds, we believe that we could do the repairs in-house.
Thank you, Sean. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Kevin.
Through you, Reeve, to Sean. Had you looked into the agreement with the Guelph to Goderich Trail Committee that runs underneath that bridge?
Through you, no, not at all.
We have North Huron has an agreement from them. They're looking at, I believe, I've heard that they were looking at actually reopening the rail crossing on County Road, Blythe Road, that was filled in because of the traffic from the G2G trail, as part of continuing on having a safe passage under the county roads that are over it. I just really wonder what the agreement we have with G2G, and the second part there, that all is on one structure with also a spillway or waterway for the Blythe Creek is also incorporated in that concrete structure. Any crossover problems with any of those scenarios with the creek?
Through you, Reeve, my understanding is that waterway is to the north of it. It's separate. This is an entirely separate structure. It doesn't have any interface with the creek.
So it's just the decking that's a problem with them?
Basically, the work that would be required, the decking needs to be replaced, the rails need to be replaced, and that's just, they're
Talking about the same, something the same grade as concrete.
except there's two steel rails that go across, and then the decking itself currently is railway ties. The underpass is what used to be a concrete archway, but it's the overpass that we're looking at doing the repairs to.
There's any rail ties or anything left?
There's 29 rail ties that make up the deck, and they're laid on two steel beams. So basically, the work would involve shoring up the one support under the westerly steel beam, replacement of the wooden deck, and then replacement of the rails.
Oh, I didn't realize it was wooden deck. Okay. Thank you, Sean.
Go ahead, Kevin. Sorry, Chris.
We do look alike. Through you, Reeve. Sean, just a question. I don't know the bridge, but is the cement work okay?
The cement work is not great, but at this point, the concerns that BM Ross have are more focused on the deck itself.
Okay, for now.
For now. And the other piece to note is that this existing lease agreement ends in 2021. So if there's something to be dealt with regard to the concrete, maybe that's a discussion.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead, Paul.
I can see, I was down looking at it this morning, and I can see Sean's doing the woodwork there. And the cement, in time, it's going to need work too. But if it can get us through to 20, another 2 years, and then change it. But I still feel at the end of the day that we have to go to the snowmobile club, because this is the only bridge that I've heard that the municipality has to pay for. All other municipalities don't have to pay for bridges. That comes out of the fees that go towards things. So I feel, well, we should be talking to them a bit too down the road. They have reimbursement back.
So just to follow up on that, I'm not sure of our contract with G2G, but we should definitely, as Kevin kind of pointed out, have a conversation with them and have a look at that contract and see if they should be paying part of it. And I'm not familiar with the bridge at all. And I agree with Paul that we should be looking at giving the snowmobilers a call because they are the ones using it, and see if we can get some financing for them from them. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. Do we have, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor of the motion? Carries. Fire department is next. And I believe we're going to go right to training, training center props donation requested. I don't have a motion or anything for that. Did you just want to speak to it?
Yeah, this letter came in late last week. So what they're here in Kinloss is asking, they're interested in some of the props that are currently there, and they're asking if we would donate them to them, similar to what we did with Lambton College. If I could maybe take it a little step further, if there are people that are interested in some of the stuff there, if we could maybe move that we donate it to whoever, based on the equipment that the fire department doesn't want, and then donate the rest. So in case it does end up costing us money to dispose of that equipment. So.
Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, I guess my part of it would be have the fire department and the departments themselves establish what is surplus, what they don't want, and then have those as these are the items that we're willing to either donate or sell, whatever option is out there, and then we wouldn't have, I guess, this conversation, this constant flow of conversation about what comes on. So we basically would give the fire department and the fire chief authority to, once he provides a list of all the surplus assets, those assets can be distributed by the fire chief at his whether he gets cost or whether he gets a donation receipt. That's determining whether the council would like to do that. But in my mind, I think it would, because my first question is, does the fire department want this stuff? Because now, in my mind, if the message is out there that the EST is sold, every fire department from here to everywhere is going to be sending us an email saying, is this for sale? Is this for sale? Is this for sale? Is this for sale? As opposed to us determining what is available and what's not.
So what we'll do is we're gonna give that thought over to the fire chief. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, just through you, Reed, to Marty. I guess maybe the whole council and to the framework was hinted to, but never finalized or any other thought put to it after the sale of the EST Center. It was mentioned at council of providing possibly, I don't think it will possible there, but providing a location for the training props if the fire department wished to remain with the props. That's never been, they've never had any information as to where, when, how, why, or what to that effect. I'd just like to say that the props that they're asking for were quite extensive in getting the certification for live fire training apparatus. Probably worth far more than what the props ever would be worth, just in the legality of getting them certified. Which they wouldn't have to do because they're already stamped. A lot of these pieces that they're talking about are the pieces that remain mainly used for the live fire training portions of the NFPA modules for live fire training to get their training. So something similar to these, if the fire department was to go back to their own training, what they use them for, would either have to rebuild and recertify props to their usage. So I'm just going back to, we never gave them any clear direction as to if they could do something with them from themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether they've spoken, whether they're speaking through our chief, or whether that conversation is from the firefighters doing the training themselves.
So I'm gonna ask Marty to just clarify on that, because I do recall that there were some that they wanted to keep. So I do know there were some they wanted to keep. So let's clarify that if you can, so that we don't start giving away things and then 6 months later have them say, well, guys, we wanted to keep that, from a fire department's point of view.
Yeah, so to be honest, I think the idea that Deputy Reeve had said was, we'll get a list of what the firefighters want to keep. But in your point, Councilor Faulkner, I don't think the purpose of them is to do the training for any certified courses. So they wouldn't have to recertify these props or whatever. And they want to scale it back just to the containers with the live burns inside the containers. As far as what my understanding was. So, but I think we should get a detailed list of what the firemen want to keep, the firefighters want to keep, and what is going to be surplus. And then
Are they also asking for the controls for these props?
I don't know.
Because the whole pad is controlled by one location, doesn't it?
Those are the outside props, right?
Yeah.
Trevor?
Yeah, so throughout this whole conversation, both the fire and the ESTC, we specifically made comment to the props and the training items that are out there that says, if you want them, we will figure out a way to either we move them or find another option, or find another option that's necessary to keep them. So my concern is not necessarily where it is at this point. There's no reason to know where it's going, because we have no place for them to go until we have a fire hall that's built. So in my mind, this is still just part of the process of transitioning from the ESTC to the new fire hall. Would be, okay, here you go. We're at a point now, firemen, we're starting to get questions or getting asks. So here's your list of all the stuff that's there. You tell me what stuff you would like to keep and scale down and process and all that. We'll give that to council. Council determine if they want to sell it, donate it, whatever. But you, as the fire department, are telling us what's surplus. We are not determining that. You are telling us what's surplus, and we will then decide whether we want to donate it or sell it after that. So they have the responsibility to tell us what assets need to be sold or donated, and not us telling them which assets we're selling.
Yeah, which is basically what Kevin's looking at. Could I go to Chris next?
Yeah, it's just sort of a simple question. How will our firemen train? Where do they plan on going, like, for certification? Like, the equipment's there now, and
So
you're gonna decide, what you want to keep, but will you keep enough that supplies that certification requirement, or will they be going somewhere else?
they could do the training, you still have to bring people in to do the certification, if that's the case. Or they go to another approved training center.
Will this, here in Kinloss be one of those?
I don't think so. I think they're building that just for themselves.
Okay.
So what I'm hearing from my council is we'd like to kind of send that back and not have a motion and have you come, talk to the fire department and see what they want to keep and then come back and then we have a clearer picture and we can move forward from that point. Okay.
Just, and I think from a process wise too, it would be nice to get what now that the fire department understands where this is going, kind of what is their picture? What is the picture in their head about what does this look like? Scaled back, whatever it looks like, so that us as counselors understand what we're gonna look at and what it's gonna be used for, certification, non-certification, all that kind of stuff, so that counselors as a whole get a better, clearer picture about what this is gonna look like at the end of the day. When we cut the ribbon on the fire hall, and that, what does it look like so that we can picture it, so that when we've had a realistic plan about, we've had some discussion about what's the scale back approach, what assets are we needing to do that, how is it gonna mention into the assets of the municipality.
So Marty, can you take that back and have that for, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Take that as information. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on. Building department has nothing by the looks of it. Child care department has nothing. We're gonna go to the CEO and we're gonna talk about policing report. Will come up. So I think I'll just again read the motion first and let you go through it, because the motion said that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby receive the report from the CEO clerk dated March 18, 2019 regarding the one-time capital cost relating to the transition from the Wingham Police Service to the OPP for information purposes. Do I have a mover? Kevin Faulkner, seconder. Rick McBurney. Go ahead.
So as the Director of Finance has indicated previously, at the last council meeting, Deputy Reeve Sight, more specifically the Chair of the North Huron Police Services Board, reviewed the draft 2019 police budget. And as a result of those discussions, staff were asked to provide some additional information, bring some additional information forward. And also there were some questions with respect to, in that draft budget, a figure of $244,000 for one-time capital costs. Excuse me. So this report, excuse me, intends to address the request. Excuse me. In your, attached to the report was a copy of the OPP contract. And specifically, if you look at page 11, there is a detailed breakdown there of the $244,000. And you'll see that $175,427 of those costs is for uniform equipment and vehicles that's required by the officers. There's a beat radio system. We had budgeted $60,000. And then the building renovations, the estimated renovations were $14,000. So in your report, you see that the initial cost estimate for those one-time capital costs were $249,427. At the time that the estimate was put together, the OPP indicated that they felt that that was a little on the higher side. And they indicated that the 244 they felt was sufficient. So that was the number that has been put in the budget. Since that time, as recently as last week, we've now got some firmer numbers. And with respect to the video rate system, as I've indicated, they indicated initially that it could cost up to $60,000. They've now come back to us and indicated that 30 to 50. So we're still in that ballpark, but there's a little bit of savings there. With respect to the building renovations, again, the budget proposal was for $14,000. The OPP have now done a review of the facility, and they basically indicated that to accommodate the officers, that the additional Wingham, the former Wingham police officers that will be returning very shortly from their training, they had initially estimated $14,000. As a result of their review, they've now established that essentially what we need to purchase are some workstations and some desks. And when you factor in the installation, it comes out to $4,400. So a significant savings there from the $14,000. That is, though, I should qualify that on the basis that there will not be public access into the building. It'll be a building for the purposes of housing the police officers. If council did wish for the Bristol Terrace location to be renovated to accommodate that, there would be significant cost to the municipality. The OPP have indicated they're not in favor of that on the basis that there is a plan within the OPP to close the Bristol Terrace facility and relocate everything to the new facility that's being constructed in Clinton. So when you factor in the most current estimates received from the OPP, the one-time capital costs are coming in now around $230,000, so down from the 244. But again, they're still estimates, so we're recommending that we just stick with the 244 to accommodate for any fluctuations around that. In addition, attached to the report, there's some additional information with respect to service levels, and more specifically, there's a 2017 Hearing Detachment Annual Report. There's an OPP in 2017 OPP Annual Report. There's some questions with respect to Section 10 versus Section 5.1, and there's been some questions with respect to a Section 31 under the Police Services Act. So we've attached to the report a comparison chart of Section 10 to Section 31, and also a chart that outlines a Section 10 compared to a Section 5.1, Section 10 being Wingham, Section 5.1 being Blyth and East Wawanosh. And we've also attached, as council requested, the 2018 contract, which again on page 11 contains that detailed breakdown. In addition to that, we've reached out to the OPP, and they are tentatively scheduled to attend council on May the 6th to provide council with an overview of the differences between the policing services under Section 5.1, again, which is East Wawanosh and Blyth, and Section 10 under Wingham. They have asked that council members review all the information that has been provided, and they would certainly appreciate if council does have any specific questions to direct them to myself. I will relay them on to the OPP, and then when they are attending on May the 6th, they'll make sure that they're prepared and they have the information that council is looking for. So again, if you do have any questions with respect to any material that is attached there, by all means forward it to me and I will relay that on to the OPP.
Questions or comments? Go ahead, Chris.
You wanted it relayed to you, or can we vocalize it?
You can vocalize it here, or you can send me an email, whatever is easiest.
It's okay. Okay. I still. Sorry. The uniform equipment and vehicles for 175. When I read it, it just hit me. What they're joining, the OPP. How come OPP isn't putting a uniform on them? I just don't understand why we have to, and why we have to. It looks like buy a car for them or whatever. Just correct me if I'm wrong. It just sort of blows my mind a little bit. If I join any company, either they clothe me or I have to buy my own. Like, why do we have to? Like, was it just knocked out in the agreement?
I'm not sure who to send that to, actually.
Or how?
Again, unless anyone wishes, that's a question I can direct to the OPP, and perhaps they can address on May the 6th.
But Trevor, do you know?
It's always been in the agreement. It's always been in the agreement that that's the capital cost associated to. Part of it is that, there was no obligation for the OPP to take the officers. Right? There's no obligation. They had to apply like everybody else, and they go through the rigorous screening process that they had to for the OPP. So there was no guarantee that they were going to get hired on as an OPP. We're only lucky enough that those same 7 or 6 officers are going to be coming back. But to clothe them into the one-time cost associated to putting guns in their hand, and that has been in the agreement all along. Nobody has asked that question, to be quite honest with you, Chris, not even myself.
Seems
Again,
odd though, eh?
well, but again, at the end of the day, it's a requirement, it's a request by us to get them. So, you know, the OP, if any company comes to you and says, I will do your service, well, then it's up to me to establish what I'm going to provide in order to provide that service. We as North Huron went to the OPP and said, you come and give me a price to do our service. So we've asked them to provide the cost of what it took to do that. What we're saying is those are one-time costs. We're only buying the first uniform and the first gun and the first vehicle over the next 3 years. After that, it's on the OPP to supply their costs associated to it. So
It sounds like just sweetening the deal, basically. Why don't we give them a car? We've got a bunch of them.
Yeah, so we'll direct that to the OPP gentlemen. We'll ask that question to the OPP and have them bring an answer for us, because they're the guys that did it. Oh, I understand. Any other questions or concerns?
I'm glad they all got jobs.
Yes.
Happy about that. I think we all are.
I'm just gonna bring up the one that, I'm gonna bring up about the closing of the facility, because we've talked about this, and I honestly didn't have a chance to read this report, but is it going to be at the end of our 3-year term? Is it going to be they need to answer that? And as you know, there's other communities involved now, and Morris Turnberry have kind of hinted that they would kind of like to, if there was ever a snowstorm or something, what do you do with the bad guy? Everything is now Clinton. Exeter, Wingham, all of us are losing, and it's not just Exeter and Wingham. Everybody around, the communities around, would take the bad guy to the little jail in that town. I'm not even sure they're going to have a jail, Clinton, but I would like that answer.
So just as far as, so the timeline we've been given is that the new facility will be up and operational in 2020.
And this will close in 2020.
I'm
Let's
assuming
ask.
so, but I can ask that question.
Yeah, because we know other communities are asking the same question, so we're gonna, if you don't mind, we'll ask that same question. Is there any other questions you wanted to put into Dwayne to have them prepared to answer? Not seeing any in a long time, but I think I have a motion on the floor on it. I don't?
Oh, yes, sorry.
That one? Son? Yeah. And do you remember who second? Yeah, just make sure it's somebody.
Kevin and Rick.
Okay, Kevin and Rick put the motion forward. All in favor? Carries. Thank you.
Anyway, I just wanted to mention that we have a police services board meeting tomorrow night. The detachment commander, the interim detachment commander, Wendy Burrows, is coming to that meeting. So we're starting the process of familiarizing ourselves with each other and that type of stuff. So, these are questions that between now and April, we'll be having meetings with her once a month. So, we can have dialogue specifically with her as well and she can have support getting us answers to some of these questions as it relates to the agreement as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Trevor. Okay. Next is the housing dam. Again, I'm going to read the motion that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby receive the report from the CEO clerk dated March 18, 2019 regarding draft terms of reference for the Housing Dam Committee for information purposes, and further that the staff direct the amend draft terms of reference as directed at the March 18, 2019 council meeting, presented an amendment version at the April 1st, 2019. So you have it on deck, guys. And all we're doing today is this is for information purposes. We've all had a chance to read it. So do I have a mover?
I'll move for discussion.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? I need a second for discussion. Okay, kiddo, go ahead.
So I just
Sorry,
want,
Trevor.
yep, no problem. I'm a kid, so I take ownership in that. I seem to be the youngest one here, so I'm good. So yeah, I did want to mention, that I did want to thank Rennie, who's came here on behalf of the House and Dam Committee and Pond Committee. Sorry. One of the things I did want to mention is, because this was a conversation that staff has had with the Reeve and myself about what do we call this committee. So we wanted to make sure that the committee, what the committee of council was somehow segregated from the committee that you have currently. So what the conversation has been is how do we distinguish the two committees? Because whether your entire committee is on this committee or not, your committee is still going to be a sound committee. You still want to have ownership and people and that type of stuff. So the one part about this is that, and maybe bridge is not the right word. We're up for suggestions. I'm council, I think, can provide suggestions too. Is the biggest thing is that I think staff is trying to, how do we segregate the two committees to make sure that, when we talk about the House and Dam Committee, the committee of council, that it's not your committee, Rennie, and that committee that you sit as a member of. So that really has been the discussion. How do we segregate the two to make sure that, one, the public understands who, when we talk about the House and Dam Committee of Council, who that is, and not that it's your committee as a whole. So, but that's kind of just my my comment to that. But I do thank you for that, maybe bridge isn't the right answer or the right word or whatever the case may be. Staff will definitely take advice under that, under the second reference, I think. But I think what I've seen from the terms of reference would give us a better handle on everybody's interests. The House and Dam Committee as it stands today, the people who may or may not want the dam, what does it look like? And that also combines back to council about all the information that's already been presented in a nice package that says, here's the committee of council's recommendation to council. Council has to determine what that response is going to be and how it's going to be funded. But at the end of the day, that's the report that council is going to be looking at. And the person who's going to be chairing that committee of council has a very difficult job in maintaining neutrality of what they want as a person versus getting all of the information on the table to have a realistic and responsible conversation about what that structure means to the municipality, what it means to certain people, and what it means to other people. So I think from my perspective, it's these terms of reference as they read obviously are good. They need some tweaking based on composition. What does it look like? How are we going to apply those types of things, which I think has been in here, and I read it quite frequently. But I just want to make sure that there's segregation between when we say the committee, the House and Dam Committee Council, that it's not consistent to be the committee that you have formed in that sense, because we're going to be taking the recommendations of the Committee of Council, not the Dam Committee as it currently sits today. So that's the clarification that I wanted to make for council and for the public, that the reason why the name change was so important to staff and, in all honesty, to council, to make sure that we're getting the information or people understand where the information is coming from.
Chris. Through Reeve. So this particular committee and council is the one that we will be reviewing and making a decision on, period, one way or the other, or what. So your committee, you're just a citizen group, but we're gonna decide the fate, pros or cons or whatever is happening to it, to the dam, and then it stops. Is that how I read this?
Yes.
One way or the other,
Yes.
it's gonna stop.
So what we're doing is we're forming a committee. In the last little while, people have come up that are on another side. So we're giving everybody an opportunity, because we're a community of communities, to put their names forward, be part of the committee and have their say. We're going to have one of the counselors step forward, we hope, and he's going to chair it as an individual and it's not going to be Bertie Bailey. So you're good. So, although I will be at the meetings as the read. But at the end of the day, our citizens are going to get together and decide where we're going to go and how we're going to get there. You're going to present it to council. Yes. Yes. And council makes the decision. There's a worry amongst council and some people that council will have no say in it once we hand it over. It is not that, gentlemen. And I think the people involved all understand that. But the rest of the world needs to know that we're making a committee that will report back to council with your findings as we move forward and with a way to make this work. Okay. You good?
Well, work one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I also read it that at the end of the day, whatever that day happens to be, if the committee stops.
No, the committee may stay on because they've got to fundraise, they've got to do whatever.
No, at the end of the day. If it came to that, yes, it's part of that, but at the end of the day.
Of the decision.
Yes.
Yeah.
It stops.
Yeah. It's going to be like council. It's going to be like council. There will be a set of hands go up, majority rules. That's the country we live in. And we'll move forward from there. Everybody can put their name forward for it. I believe we have in there 5 to 9 members.
No fewer than 5.
Yeah, no fewer than 5. We all know we don't want 40 because nothing will get done with 40. So that will come, that will go out and it'll come before the staff and council will sit down and go through and decide based on merit who will be on the committee.
It has to be balanced.
Yeah, and it'll be balanced. Yeah. Did you have something, Trevor?
Yeah, so the committee of council will end in my term, in the way my terms of reference and the way I understand it is the committee of council is the sole purpose of it is to determine what is going to be done with it. So if the committee of council decides that we're repairing it and it comes to council and council's in favor of it, that committee as it reads today would then be dissolved. And then the group of whoever wants to support the group of the fundraising, and then another committee will begin. Because I will tell you, if you're going to have a balanced approach with terms of reference of a committee that's got both sides of the equation on it, that same committee isn't going to be all in on whatever decision is going to come back. Because somebody's not going to be happy with the decision that you make. Because that's the whole purpose of it. So that committee would then disband.
Okay.
And then you would apply to and you have another committee that says we're a committee of council that is fundraising for the specific goal of doing this job.
Okay. So is all council good for that? It's just a committee to another committee? I'm fine with that too. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
Just in terms of these, were draft terms of reference. So from a staff's perspective, we're looking for any comments and feedback in terms of any changes you want to see. And then based on the comments and feedback, we'll bring back an amended version. So whether it's a draft version or a final version for council's approval. And there's a timeline in there. And if council does approve the terms of reference, then the next step then would be for staff to proceed with advertising for applications. And then as the REIT has indicated, those applications would be presented and discussed with council. council would make those decisions in terms of who would be appointed to that committee. So at this point, staff are seeking any comments or feedback on the terms of reference as they are currently presented. Go ahead, Kevin.
Through your rib. Yeah, the only term of reference that I can see that would pertain that, I don't know the time frame for the decision making. I would like something in the terms of reference that this doesn't get shoved onto another council. You know, that this has to be disbanded or reignited by another council. Just, I hated the way that some of the stuff that got put back onto us to make decisions. That's a kind of a cheap way out. So I'd like this to be done within that term of reference or a term of council.
So I'm gonna throw it out there then, should we give it a 1 year, 6 months? Has anybody, any ideas? If you want it actually in writing?
It's been going on for
40.
8, 10, 12 years and there hasn't been any.
No, I agree with you.
So
You
I
don't
don't
want
know
to.
how quickly it's the same information. So
I'm going to suggest that from both sides, there's a lot of information. It's just a matter of sorting it out and where to go with it. We should be doing something next summer, shouldn't we? We should be looking at putting it in the budget for next summer.
What in the budget?
One way or the other.
Whatever the decision is.
One way or the other. Go ahead.
Based on the information that's been presented to both the previous council and committees and all that, my personal opinion, I don't think there should be any reason why a decision could not be made within 1 year.
Okay.
There's tons of information out there. There's pros for and pros against it. We've all had it. The council before us has heard it multiple times. It's just a matter of getting that committee locked in a room for for meetings to determine what the realistic goal of this project is based on information and fact that's in the discussion. And there's always going to be interpretation to the information that's presented. So that's going to be what it's going to boil down to. But I think as being members of the council on that committee and the REIV as well, it should be able to be pushed forward and moved forward relatively, that we should be able to make a decision within a year. If we can't make a decision within a year, then we're not going to make a decision. It doesn't matter what you do, in my opinion. It's just going to get pushed on and pushed on and pushed on.
Yeah. So going back to what you asked, Chris, the decision's going to be made to tear it down or to rebuild it. Then that committee's over and we form a new committee for fundraising to do, because somebody's got to pay for something. Because I stated very clearly during the election, I don't have $450,000 to tear it down and I don't have $3 million to build it. Either way, somebody has to come up with the money if that's the way it goes. Okay? This isn't just we're going to tear it down, the tax dollars are paying for it. It ain't going to happen. Well, if I get 6 people to go with me. Go ahead, Trevor.
The only comment I have about the terms of reference would be if and based on the information that we just talked about, is any indication about fundraising or any commentation about what is to do whatever with the structure should come out of these terms of reference. It shouldn't matter if you have grant writing approval or know what grant writing approval is or what availability you have, because at the end of the day, that's not going to be part of the discussion at the table. At this point, it might be valuable information, but it's not a guarantee that just because you say that we can get a grant for this, should that mean automatically that that's going to happen? So I think from a standpoint is, my only thoughts is keep the terms of reference focused on getting a decision made and not what else, all the other variables that can come into play with the discussion.
Any other comments or questions? You good with that? Yeah. Oh, that was the one I lost. Okay, so we do have a mover and a seconder. So after that, any more discussion? All in favor? Carries. Next is Property Standards Committee. That the Council Township of North Huron hereby receive a report from the CEO clerk dated March 18, 2019 regarding draft terms of reference for the North Huron Property Standards Committee for information purposes. I think I'll take a mover and seconder and hand it over to Dwayne. Paul's moving, Anita's seconding.
Thanks, Reeve. Just in terms of the North Huron Procedure Bylaw does state that every committee is to have terms of reference. So as staff, we've been preparing terms of reference for council's consideration. During a recent property standards appeal, it did come to the attention of staff that we do not have terms of reference for our property standards committee. So what we've attached for you here are draft terms of reference for your review and consideration. Again, staff are looking for any comments or feedback that you have, and we'll take that those comments and feedback back, make whatever changes are requested, and bring back a final version. Just quickly, the terms of reference that are before you were prepared by referencing existing corporate policy and bylaws. So all of our existing bylaws and policies apply to this committee as they do to any other committee. We have also used a draft template that we are moving forward with for other non-North Huron committees. So we're trying to standardize what the terms of reference, what's in them and what's not in them, I guess. It also references the Building Code Act, as well as multiple Ontario municipal examples. We looked at other examples in various municipalities to assist in the drafting of these terms of reference. The committee itself doesn't meet that often, but it is important to have these terms of reference. The draft terms of reference from a staff's perspective are straightforward. They're more procedural in nature. The mandate of the committee is not something that council decides. That is already decided by the Ontario Building Code Act. So in terms of what they do and what they are, that's already been determined. So again, looking for any comments or feedback on these draft terms of reference, and if council is satisfied with them or would like to see changes to them, please let us know, and then we will bring forward an amended or a final version for council at the next meeting.
Comments or questions? Seeing none. All in favor? I just want to back up a bit here. I believe in the last one, Trevor, you changed that for discussion purposes. I'm going to.
That's just for more of just so that we can. The only reason I say that is so that we don't go right to a vote. If you say discussion purposes, then as long as nothing changes, in the general motion, the discussion purpose is just to make sure that there's no discussion, nothing's going to change in the motion after the fact.
Okay.
The motion was fine. I just wanted to make sure that we just talked about it before the motion came. That's why I added discussion purposes in there.
Okay. Okay, so we'll maybe look into that just to make sure moving forward. I'm good with that because nothing changed for tonight. Okay, next we have the Community Improvement Plan Applications Report. So again, we're just going to do the motion first that the Council Township of North Huron hereby receive the report from the CEO clerk dated March 18, 2019 regarding Community Improvement Plan applications, and further that the council receives 6 applications and approve 4 to receive the Community Improvement Plan grant funding for the purpose of faucet improvements under the terms of the program, and further that the council approves another intake of applications with a deadline of May 31st, 2019. Do I have a mover? Anita. Seconder is Paul. Okay, if you don't mind taking that over and having a conversation with you.
Yep. So in November 2018, under the previous council, there was a community improvement plan that was developed and was approved for both the Wingham and the Blythe main streets. And it is a facade improvement program in terms of, it's very much about the facades of buildings within predefined area, which is identified in the community improvement plan. Just for the benefit of the public and for council, building owners or tenants within the CAP project areas, again, which are described. are eligible for grants up to 50% of eligible improvement costs up to a maximum grant of $10,000. Again, if it deals with the facade, it's eligible under the program. If it deals with maintenance, it is not eligible for the program. And there are eligibility criteria in the community improvement plan. And as well, you'll see in the report, it speaks to the ineligible costs that are not eligible under the program. So the Main Street Revitalization Program, as Director of Finance had previously indicated, we have $42,008 that we received from a grant from the province. And that money is in the 2019 budget for applications for this program. First intake of the applications were from January 1st until February 28th. As the REEF has indicated, during that time period, we received 6 applications, which is very good, given there are other community improvement programs out there that they've been in existence for more than a year and they haven't got any applications. So I mean, 6 is good. So I think that's important to emphasize. Of the 6 applications that we got, 1 did not meet the eligibility criteria, and the other was for what we refer to as maintenance. So again, was not eligible under the program. I won't go into a lot of detail. The report does outline the 4 applications that have been recommended for approval. These applications were reviewed by the Economic Development Committee, which serves as the review committee for the CIP applications. And the Economic Development Committee has recommended these 4 applications to Council for approval. And in the report, you'll see that, flipping quickly to the back, in terms of the 4 applications, the amount of the work that would be completed within the 4 applications, the total amount of the cost of the projects is $43,550. Of that, the municipality's contribution on the CIP program would be $13,312.98. So you'll see that your return on your dollar is very good in terms of for $13,000, you're getting $43,000 of facade improvement work completed. In terms of the $42,008, that leaves a balance of $28,000 available in 2019 for the CIP program. So the Economic Development Committee did discuss this and are recommending that Council proceed with another intake of applications with a deadline date of May 31st. Thinking here is that there were significant efforts in terms of getting the word out through newspaper, website. The business improvement associations were very involved in getting the word out. The applications were all for the Wingham Ward, not that that's a bad thing, but this program is also available to the Blythe residents. So we're certainly hopeful that once these applications, in terms of them moving forward and subject to them being approved, that word will spread and that more applications would be the hope on the municipality's part. So again, it's recommended that Council proceed to approve another intake of applications again with the May 31st, 2019 deadline.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, I call the vote. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Correspondents are next. Blythe Lions Club. Okay. Rick, did you want to speak to this one? First of all, I'm going to put a motion out there. We have the Blythe Lions Club request for Michaela Ainsley Day. That the Council Township of North Huron hereby receive the correspondence from the Blythe Lions Club regarding the request to proclaim April 14, 2019 as Michaela Ainsley Day. Rick, would you like to speak to this one? Or?
No, I would actually suggest that we do. Like, she's quite a talented speaker.
I'm reading about this, yes. Yes. Okay. You're going to second?
No,
Okay, go ahead.
Just for discussion. She's been quite a representative for not only the local Lions Club, but for children in general from our area, being quite well-spoken and well-read as a young child in our school system. But she's had, after her winning and going to, before the UN, I know she's had several requests to speak for other organizations around the world. So this isn't just a local, a local phenomenon. She's gaining worldwide recognition, and I wholeheartedly support in the request by the line. She's as as much a notoriety now as Alice Monroe, a few of the other that we do have named in town, and it's nice to see someone other than a hockey player get a hometown of the so I'm quite proud of her, and I think North Huron is quite proud of her too.
So I'm going to take it that Rick, you're going to pass the motion or put the motion forward, and Kevin's going to second it. And then further comments and questions from the, go ahead.
I think future, just compounds to the motion that was made last council meeting that we were going to send her a congratulation letter, and I think this just compounds it exponentially from, and from my perspective is that the world we live in today, and when you turn on the TV, what do you hear? What do you see? And an essay of a child of this caliber, and the essay title is Kindness Matters, its worldwide fame, is a testament to the child itself, but it's also a testament to the speaking ability that she provides. It's fine to write something down on a piece of paper, but when you have to communicate it in front of a mass audience and deliver what you wrote and speak to it the way she did, I've never heard it, but from what I've been told, is an exceptional thing for not only herself, but her family, her friends, everybody in the municipality should be thanking her for what really this world should be about. And it should be about kindness and not what we have to read and listen to every day on the news. So, I would be more in favor of a week, but we can't offer that. But that's the type of information, that's the type of, notoriety that this particular student deserves, because she has brought herself and the community on her back and really represented us in the best way she could. And that's why I'm in full support of this. And I think it's more people like that and more community members like that we should be thanking every day that we sit in this chamber. So I would definitely like that.
Chris?
Thank you, Reeve. Would it be proper to invite her to a council meeting and present her with something, a token of our appreciation of what she has accomplished, and she's one of our girls,
I think that's a great idea.
I don't know if that letter has went, if the letter hasn't went out, we can definitely present her with a plaque or something at a council. I would be fully in support of that.
Do they have something like a pin too, or something like a North Huron pin? Just a little keepsake, special, huh?
We'll do something up for us, and we'll take that, and Wayne will take care of that for us. Any other comments? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? It's unanimous. Council report. Go ahead.
Yep. It does talk about an open house, April 14th, at the Memorial Hall between 3 and 5. for any of us that could attend.
I'm gone. I'm out of town. Sorry. Yeah,
Well, it's open to all council,
Yeah.
so if all council can.
Just reminding.
Just reminders, yeah.
okay. Okay, Reeves activity report. It's gonna be a quick one tonight. The Economic Development Board is, we had a meeting, and as I said, I'm floating this idea of having the county move their building to Blythe. There's a lot of support out there from other communities that they'd like to see it move from Goderich. So we're gonna try to pick up on that. And the Cottrells, they're in Moncton, they're the curling champions of Ontario. Mixed.
Cottrells, yeah.
Cottrells, sorry. And I was there at that meeting the other night representing North Huron. And again, these are people that are it's just amazing how far they came in such a short time. And they are now curling for the Canadian Awards, I believe, in Moncton. They start Friday. So I'm sure their nerves are a little on edge too as they work towards those goals. The rest of it really I'm not at liberty to talk about at this time because I really didn't do a lot. But what can I tell you guys? Took a couple weeks off. Anyway. Okay, council member reports. Go ahead, Nita. And
As
then
far
Rex.
as I remember, I saw you at In It to Win It too.
Oh, I was there too. That's right too.
We had 12 presenters from the township, and it was really awesome to be there and see how many people were interested in starting up a business. So that was really great. We had the Physicians Recruitment Committee. Jen gave a presentation to that, so we're all up to date to that. I went to the OMERS presentation at Bruce Power. They were talking about the municipal employees pension plan, and they invest heavily in Bruce Power, and I was really pleased with that because they invest in Bruce Power invests in the community, so it's a circle of money going around everywhere. So it was really nice, really good presentation. So
Great, thank you very much. Chris?
I attended a CHICS meeting last week, a coalition for hearing injury prevention. And we didn't have very many there. So our elections haven't been taking place yet. Anyway, we're working on a project, the ATV. It's a pamphlet with rules, safety rules, and et cetera, and where you can and cannot ride on an ATV. But anyway, next meeting's next month.
Chris?
Vicki and I attended the Knights of Columbus committee meeting that we had set up, and it went very well, very smooth. We came to, good terms on a lot of the subjects, a lot of the areas. So we are going to, mostly Vicki, going to come up with the draft of the agreement, and then we'll look it over, and then it's looking like we'll present it to them at their meeting on the 2nd of, I guess that's April. And then if everything goes well, then we will bring it to this group on what's the next one?
15.
On 15th for hopefully approval.
Great. Thank you very much. Kevin?
Thank you, Reeve. I attended the Blythe Business Improvement meeting where they finally got and passed their budget, which will be coming over to council for their for our approval of their budget. I was gave them the code of conduct that we were given through that we deal with between staff members and our counselors as a framework for them to work with, and also the framework for what the proper procedure for holding meetings of council and the conduct of those meetings. They had asked for that meeting, or for me to get that information right at the first meeting when I first joined council. So I was happy to get that from Dwayne in the last meeting and pass on a copy to them. On that, they're still working on the the next year's festival, Christmas festival. I'm trying to move forward with not a flea market, but a farmer's market that they've had, and just trying to finalize some new places for them to be and where they can, new vendors. So that's all I have to report.
Great.
The theater, you all got a come and go thing for the theater upgrade. They want to have the reveal party, and if you can make it, please by all means come. Your spouses. Time.
That's this Saturday, isn't it?
No, this Sunday.
This Sunday.
This Sunday at come here. I think it's 2 to 3, and then it starts up there about 3 o'clock, 3:30. They're having a
For the
gentleman showing pictures and just more or less to promote the building, and
Yeah.
hopefully they're going to get a few movers on it. I hope.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else? Okay.
I've talked enough.
Notice of motion. There's the request by myself that the council of the Township of North Huron hereby direct the staff to prepare a report summarizing agreements with other municipalities. Can I have a mover?
I'll move it.
Can I have a seconder? Anita? Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take the vote. Thank you. Now you don't get any time off, right? Bylaws. Bylaw number 29, 2019, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council as zoning bylaw amendment, part north part lot 28, concession 10, 38553 Belfast Road, be introduced and read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Reeve and clerk and engrossed in the bylaw books. Do I have a mover? Chris moves, Anita seconds, all in favor, carries. The next one's a bylaw for funding agreement between the Security Council that Donna talked about earlier. Bylaw number 30, 2019, being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario as represented by the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services for the Court Security and Prisoner Transfer CSPT program. Be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Reeve and clerk and engrossed in the bylaw books. Do I have a mover? Paul and Kevin, all in favor? Thank you. Passes, Announcements. So the next regular council meeting is going to be held Monday, April 1st, 2019, 6 p.m. here in the chambers. The next North Huron Police Services Board will be held Tuesday, March 19th at 7 p.m. here in the chambers. The next North Huron Economic Development Committee, I've asked tentative for April the 11th, 2019 at 8 o'clock. And the reason I say tentative is because I will not be in Canada for 3 or 4 days then. So I'm going to try to switch that over to a different date because I would like to be to every one of those meetings. Okay. Other business. Go ahead.
The meeting, the county meeting on Thursday, right?
So you're referring to the Huron County Municipal Officers meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
In Brussels.
In Brussels?
Yeah.
So do we have, we all going, or I put my name in, I think?
Five of you are going.
Okay.
Plus myself, so there's 6 in total.
Right, good.
I'm glad we do it early on Friday, so I'm.
Oh, I heard that rumor. Other business. We have the OSUM conference. Sorry. Did anybody want to speak to that?
Do you want me to talk to you briefly?
Please.
You talk to Dwayne.
Yeah, so OSUM is Ontario Small Urban Municipalities Conference. The conference is held on an annual basis and it's geared towards small municipalities with an urban focus or urban issues. So just in terms of there's an executive committee that organizes the conference, and I'm part of that executive committee. There's actually two of us on that, and then it's comprised of mayors from other areas of the province. So right now, currently, Graydon Smith, who's the mayor of Bracebridge, currently chairs that committee. The committee itself is easily described, or better described, I guess, as almost a subcommittee of AMO, the Ontario Association of Municipalities of Ontario. So essentially, that committee discusses issues that are of interest or of priority to local urban, smaller municipalities. And then through what we call the caucus, which is a subgroup of the executive, then is the line or into AMO. And AMO deals with the province on a one-on-one basis. So, but anyways, in terms of going back to the conference itself, it's being held May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It starts at, I think, around 5 o'clock on May the 1st. And it's a 3-day, well, kind of a 2.5-day, kind of Wednesday night, all day Thursday, and Friday until noon. As part of our involvement with OSAM, we've committed to send 2, so I'm committed to go, plus 2 members of council. So what we're looking for is in terms of 2 members of council to attend. It is in Pembroke, which for anybody is north of Ottawa. It is quite a hike. Last year, the conference was held in Niagara. So it's held in different areas of the province. The whole purpose of moving it around the province is so that municipalities from that area of the province have the opportunity to attend in various areas. So it's a smaller conference. Generally speaking, it's well attended, and the topics tend to be very focused to kind of the smaller urban issues that municipalities are dealing with. So putting that out there as far as 2 people that might be interested or be able to
So
attend.
I will be going as the read, and so we're looking for one other person.
I'll be in Ottawa on the 1st anyway.
Perfect.
Jeez.
Good luck.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
The day before that, May 30th, or excuse me, April 30th. I don't know if it's sealed in stone yet, but that is going to be the night for the gala for the live play. And the
Pigeon King.
Pigeon King with the Ministry of Tourism and Arts and Tourism. So I'm there for that. So I'll be there 3 days before that. But I could stay longer.
Super. Thank you very kindly.
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Happy holidays.
My wife downtown with a great record shop over there.
There you go.
So we're gonna go to a closed session, so can I have a motion to go into closed session? Mr. Sykes, Mr. Heffer, all in favor? Thank you. Passed.